I'm so excited that you've taken time out to tune in to the Ella Johnson Show. I hope that you enjoy the broadcast. I hope you'll laugh. I hope you'll cry. But I hope that you'll be moved by what you hear. Well, my guests are very special to me, and so are you. So I want you to sit back, enjoy the show. I'm so excited that you've taken time out to tune in to the Ella Johnson Show. I hope that you enjoy the broadcast. I hope you'll laugh. I hope you'll cry. But I hope that you'll be moved by what you hear. Well, my guests are very special to me, and so are you. So I want you to sit back, enjoy the show. What you can become depends on what you can overcome. Yes, I'm so excited about my children's book that's coming out, and I'm looking for some mahogany kids. I'll tell you about that later. And now it's time for the Ella Johnson Show. Yes, hello, everyone. It is Thursday night, and you know what time it is. It's time for the Ella Johnson Show. Boy, do we have an exciting show for you tonight. If you're watching by Facebook, thank you. I appreciate it. We appreciate your support, but please do me a favor and share the video, because this show tonight is going to change your life. And it's going to change your mind. Real talk. Because, you know, it's Real Talk TV here on the Ella Johnson Show. So you just never know what you're going to hear. So if you're watching from YouTube, we appreciate it. Thank you all who have subscribed to my channel. But if you're watching from there, just please stay with us tonight and comment and ask questions in the comment section from time to time. I'll bring your comments on the screen. So we look forward to you asking questions to our guest. She's beautiful, isn't she? And she is with us tonight, guys. Listen, I want you to meet my beautiful guest, okay? She is from Texas. She is a mom of three, Tiona, Tyrus, and Whitney. Those are her beautiful babies. She is married to Billy Rodall, and she's months away from getting her real estate license. She works with Remax Realty right now. I want to ask you guys a question about this beautiful woman here.
I can't hear.
You can't hear?
I can't hear you.
I can hear you. Okay, guys, we're having a technical difficulty right now, so give me just a second, and we will be right back.
I don't know what happened. I can't hear.
Okay, hold on a second. Let me do this.
The time for change is now.
If you care about me when I do this,
Or when I do this, you should care about us when we do this. I won't always be an athlete, but I will forever be a Black woman.
you've had my back here.
Now, have my back here. No one should feel unsafe due to the color of their skin.
All lives can't matter until Black lives matter.
Join us in the fight to end systemic racism.
Black lives matter.
Black lives matter. Black lives matter.
Black lives matter.
What's going on? I can't hear.
Okay, guys, we are back. Angela, you still can't hear nothing?
I can't hear you at all.
Okay, so you can't hear me speaking because nothing has changed. Guys, please excuse us for right now because we're live. Um, but we
I
need our
can't hear
guests
at
to be
all.
able to hear, right? I check your settings, see if you've muted your mic or something. Did you turn your volume down, Angela? So you can't hear me.
I can't hear you at all.
Oh my gosh. I don't know why. There's nothing that changed. Ay, ay, ay. Okay, that's not it. This has nothing to do with it. Look on your settings and see if you've changed something. Because we were doing good just a minute ago. When you touched your phone, when you pulled your phone up to share, check and see if maybe you did something because nothing has changed. You're not muted over here. Guys, I apologize. I do apologize. We're having some technical difficulty. You know, this kind of stuff happens when you go live sometimes. So I do apologize. But while Angela is working on that, I just want to welcome you guys again to the Ella Johnson Show. And make sure that we were just live. We were just talking in the background here and we were able to hear. So I don't know, something happened between the time we went live and now. I'm not sure exactly what happened. So I do apologize, you guys. But I do want to welcome you all to the Ella Johnson Show. And but it's very important that my guest is able to
I'm
hear.
trying to pull it up on Facebook to see if I can at least hear from there.
Yeah. But you have to be able to hear from here because we're not really coming live from Facebook. We're on StreamYard. And we were able to hear. So I don't know, something happened between the time we went live and now. I'm not sure exactly what happened. So I do apologize, you guys. But I do want to welcome you all to the Ella Johnson Show. And but sorry, guys. This will be a good time to go and get something to drink. Go get some popcorn or something because we're gonna have this interview. Devil, you might as well just get out of the way. I don't know what happened because we were hearing each other just fine right before we went live. So I don't know. Something happened between then and now. Can you
Do
look
you
at
want me to
this?
try to log completely off and back on?
Yes, let's try that. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, log off and
Okay.
then I'll just talk to the audience until you can come back. Okay.
Okay.
All
Log
right.
off.
Sounds good. Yes. And then come back on. All right, guys. So as you can see, we're live and we're having some difficulty. But that's okay because I can talk enough for the entire show, right? Well, listen, guys, how was your day? How was everybody today? How's everybody coping with COVID in your area? I know that I'm talking to Angela tonight, and she's out of Texas, and I know in Texas, your governor over there just got COVID. I know that's not anything pleasant for anyone, but I think that during this COVID period, we are all learning some lessons because it's going to get worse before it gets better. So stay prayed up, take care of your loved ones. I'm hearing every day in my inbox of different people that are passing away, different people that are suffering, parents that had it, now their kids have it. And, I'm not going to come on here and preach about vaccines or anything like that. But I will say this, I had it. And those of you that watched my broadcast after I had it, So I'm going to pull up some of your comments here. Tiana, Tiana, she says, I think she can't hear you, Mazella. Yeah. Thank you, sweetie. We're trying to fix it because I don't know what happened because we were fine right before we went live, guys. So Ken said, I hear you both. That's what I thought. So maybe she didn't think that you guys could hear her, but you were hearing her, Ken, but she said that she wasn't able to hear me. So I don't know what happened because I'm not muted. I don't know. And if I log out, we have to start a whole new show. So I don't want to do that. So let's see if she's able to come in, but I will do whatever we have to do to make this show work. So we have to sign out. Yeah, she said, try to check your settings, make sure you're not muted. Thank you, Tiana, for giving that message to her. Because there had to be something that happened with her phone because we were fined before we went live. So she's back there. Let's see if it's better.
I can hear
Hi,
you
honey.
now. Hi.
You can hear me now.
I can hear you.
Yes. Where there's a will, there is a way. Baby girl, listen. Well, you didn't hear my awesome introduction of you. You
I
got to hear
did.
that. No, we got to start over there. Welcome, everybody, to the Ella Johnson Show. But I said that like 20 times, so you guys feel welcomed by now, right? Well, listen, this beauty that's sitting with me tonight, she is out of Texas. She's a mom of 3. Her 3 children are Tiana, Tyrus, and Whitney. She's married to Billy. She currently works for Remax Realty, and she's months away from getting her own real estate license. That's incredible. Now, I want to ask you guys something. How hard would someone have to hit you in the head to knock out both of your contact lenses? I'm just saying. Well, this beauty that's sitting with us tonight, she has survived domestic abuse. She has survived drug addiction and COVID. And she's here tonight to tell her story so that it will help change someone's life. But she doesn't want to just change your life. She's hoping that her story will help you change your mind. And I want you guys to remember something, that if you change nothing, nothing will change. Welcome to the Ella Johnson Show.
Thank you
Miss
for having me.
beautiful Angela Rodall.
Thank
I
you.
am so excited to have
I'm
you
excited
here
to be here. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. Well, now that we can hear each other, listen, I was like, I'm willing to do whatever we have to do because this story has to be told. And the devil, I don't know why he thinks we're going to break a sweat.
That was the devil.
That was the devil. I'm like, boy, you need to go somewhere, sit down. I'm like, aren't you tired? Aren't you tired yet?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not going to stop God's plan. It's not going to happen.
That's right. That's right.
So anyway, we are here. You are here. We've already seen the video. We were trying to make do some things while you were waiting to get that done. But we are excited to have you. Now, I was just talking about COVID. You had COVID. I had COVID. We're going to talk about that a little later in the broadcast. But right now, your governor has COVID. What's up?
He does. He does.
And he was talking all this noise, Angela.
Right. Right. Yeah, I didn't understand it, but it is what
but we don't wish it on anybody because you and I both having it. Right. It is not something that's pleasant. I wouldn't wish it even on a Republican. I would not wish that because it's nothing good. It doesn't feel good. It's a bad situation. So I just want to encourage you guys to protect yourselves, stay prayed up, do what you got to do. Right, Angela?
That's right. That's right.
Well, we've already lost so much time. Everybody wants to get to know you. And then there's some that we're reintroducing. Because you have a lot of supportive family and friends that are watching the broadcast, and they're just excited about your story because you got out. You know, unlike a lot of women, my cousin, for example, they didn't get a chance to be able to sit here and do this. So we want to know a little bit about you. So let's take it all the way back, Angela. Let's go back to your childhood. Okay. I usually like to start there because I just believe that somewhere in the childhood, some things trigger some things later. Right. So tell us about your childhood.
My childhood, well, I had a good childhood. I am the last child of 10 children. My mother had 10 children. We were basically in sets. It was five above and five below. And I was the last one of all of them. I
So you're the
grew up,
baby.
I'm the baby. Yes, the baby
Aw.
of 10. So, and I had six sisters and three brothers. I had a brother that actually passed away before I was born.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I ended up with two brothers, raised with two brothers. Also a nephew, which I call my brother. We were both the same age, and he was basically in the home with us. So um, it was him also. My mother, I was raised up in a Christian home. My mother
Okay.
was a Christian faith faithful woman. I mean, a prayer warrior, the best Christian you could ever know. And my mother
Wow.
had so much faith, so much
Wow.
faith, and I believe, I know that's where my faith came from. It is watching her, well,
Yeah.
as I grew up. My mother made do with whatever we had.
Amen.
We weren't a wealthy family,
Right.
and she did what she had to do. Her and my father. My father was in the home as well. Um, I just remember growing up with one, two, three, four of my siblings, because the other five or other six were gone before I was older. As a matter of fact, I can remember when I was probably about 8 or 9, and this lady would come over, and my mom gave her the right to spank us. I couldn't figure out, why is this lady spanking us. I later realized and learned that she was my oldest sister. So we were two set. We were in two sets. Um, I had just a normal childhood, a good childhood. I did have a great childhood. I do remember. I think I had issues in school. I was tall. Being tall in school was not a good thing for a child. Um,
Did you get picked on a lot? Is
I
that what
was,
happened?
because
Yeah.
I was tall. But I still had a lot of friends. When being
I
in
can see
sport,
why. I can
being
see
in
why.
sports, you gather friends. I do
Yeah.
remember, when I was running track in junior high, I was so skinny, so small and tall, that they called me chicken. So
Chicken.
because I had chicken legs,
Oh
so chicken was a
my
nickname
God,
for me
that's
in high
funny.
school. It didn't bother me until I got into high school. I didn't
Right.
care for that nickname, but um,
You know what I was thinking about as you said something about your mom and you said that she was a prayer warrior and she was a
mhm,
woman of faith. And I
mhm,
said, you know what? The enemy is very, very crafty. He's not
right,
smart. He's crafty. And I
right,
said, as because your mom, he knew he couldn't get her,
hmm
so he's going after
with the
kids.
children, exactly,
Yes. And
exactly.
and it's but yeah, guess what? You may have gone off, but you always come back to it,
That's
don't
right.
we?
That's
When
right.
times are really hard, we always come
Right.
back to it. So going through those teenage years, is that when you started dating guys?
I didn't. My mother didn't allow us to date.
I figured that.
She didn't. We didn't. We weren't able, or I wasn't able to date until I was supposed to have been 18 years old. But I didn't. At the age of 16, I did meet a man. I won't call any names, but I met him. I was 16. He was 23.
Okay.
Much older than I was. I pretty much dated him until I was actually out of high school. Actually out of high school. There was times that my mother, I had to hide that relationship once she found out that he was older than I was. She wasn't fond of it. She went to his
Did
mother's
she tell
house.
you to leave him alone?
She did. She told him to stay away from me. She went to his mother's house and asked her to tell him to stay away from me. Or she told him what she would do if he didn't stay away from me. But that was my first love. I was young and in love. And so I dated him, and um, that there was a relationship that was, I guess what they call those guys, Casanovas.
Yeah.
He was a Casanova, so being young and being that my first love, the
Yeah.
first person I was ever with, I was blinded. I was blinded
How
to.
did it end?
Well, I ended up having my first child with him when I was the age of
Okay.
20, and when I was 22, my first
Okay.
daughter, Whitney. Um, it just it resided. I got older and got wiser.
There you go.
He
Yeah,
became, he ended up with another lady and had another child. And once that happened, I was able to kind of wean myself away from him.
absolutely. Yeah. That's always a help. When
Right,
you meet someone else or if they meet someone else, it makes
right,
it a lot
exactly.
easier. Yeah.
Right.
So
Mhm.
let's move from him and let's move into the next guy. Is this gonna be the guy that went to prison? Are we gonna move into
Yes,
his
I
he
did.
next?
I did. I began, of course, between 18, you go out and you party, you do what you do.
Right.
And I met other guys. I
So
was
you had a
seeing,
normal young adult life.
not exactly, exactly.
Okay. All right.
But my next serious relationship, I met him, this guy, and I dated him for a while. He actually, when I was, my oldest daughter was probably 9 months old, is actually when I met him. Once she turned a year old, we left the town that we lived in, and I moved away to the Metroplex with him and his
Okay.
sister.
Okay.
Um, I later then I stayed there with her. I let in him. I later learned that he was a drug user. I had no idea. I had no idea.
How did
I
you
just
find
know.
out?
Well, one weekend he went away, went off, and went somewhere, and I went was at his sister's house. That's actually where we lived with her. He was gone for days, for about 3 or 4 days, and the sister didn't tell me what was going on. So finally, after the fourth day, she told me. She said, "Listen, my brother is on drugs. You need to know this. This is what has happened. It was me, my daughter, her, and she had a daughter. Well, he left and went with the car, the vehicle, the only vehicle that we had there. And
Oh
so he
no.
left us stranded in the Metroplex for some days. And after
And
that
this is
happened,
Whitney's father, right?
no, no, no.
No, this is
This is the upcoming abuser.
upcoming abuser. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Um,
Just
yes,
trying to keep him straight.
yes. Whitney's
So
father's out the picture now.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So he okay. So when he finally came back, what was that exchange like? Were you packed already, ready to
Well, he
go, or
never
what
came
happened?
back. He never
He
came
never
back. He
came
was
back.
arrested. He was
Oh
arrested for
no.
whatever he was doing out there. He was arrested for some charges that were pending on him. I knew nothing about this. I was young, and I was really scared when I moved to the Metroplex with him because all I knew was my mother,
That's
in,
right.
in
Right.
Abilene, Texas. That was it. But I moved away with him, trusting, thinking, here I am with this young. In my mind, I'm thinking I have this baby. I found this man who cares about my daughter and
Yeah.
me, so I'm going to be able to raise her and have a family. I don't have to raise her alone.
I like that you said that, Angela, because there are women watching this broadcast who have children who are single
Yes.
right now, and you're about to embrace another relationship, or you're in a relationship and you're in a relationship with someone who's not the father of that child. What kinds of things did you have to consider before you decided to be with this guy? Because you have to consider your daughter at this point.
Right.
So, what did you have to consider before you entered a relationship with him?
What I consider is the when I first met him and he came to our apartment, he was very attentive to her. He was
Okay.
attentive to her. He was really nice to me. I seen no signs of anything but a very nice man, and he was good looking. I considered him good looking, and
Does that matter to us? That still matters, doesn't
a
it?
little bit, just a little
A little
bit.
bit.
But anyway, I just, I felt that I have this person to help me raise my daughter. It
Right.
wasn't just to raise my daughter, but
To help
after
you.
after that
Yeah.
that first relationship with her father, I was broken. I was
I'm
so hurt.
sure.
I was so in love
Yeah.
with him, and
Yeah.
then I was just broken. And then when I met him, he kind of like pick the pieces up and put some pieces together that
Right.
made me feel like I can go on with life with him. So that's how that
I
happened.
do this motivational message about the puzzle. And when you said that broken pieces, it reminded me of how we like the puzzle, that God is so good that on that puzzle, he gives us a picture of what it's going to look like.
Right,
But sometimes we like to throw a piece in there that doesn't fit, but we
right.
still want that picture,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And it
Hmm.
sounds like we're getting ready to find in your story that piece that
Right,
didn't fit to your puzzle.
exactly.
So he went to prison.
Hmm.
This guy went
He
to,
went ahead and went to prison. I
yeah,
stayed there for about a year with his sister, me and my
with his
daughter. We,
sister. Okay.
yeah, I lived
Were
with his
you still
sister.
communicating with him even though he's in
I
prison?
wasn't. I completely
Okay.
quit contacting him. He would write letters. I wouldn't respond. Um, Basically, his sister didn't respond either. You know, so
Okay.
I continued to work in Dallas, Texas. I was in Dallas, Texas. I continued to work
Okay.
and take care of my daughter. Um, but once she turned, I guess about a little over a year, I decided to come back home to Abilene, Texas. Actually, we both decided to move back to Abilene. We were both from this
You and his
area,
sister.
and
You
me and
guys
his
decided
sister.
to move.
So we moved
Okay.
back to Abilene. Hmm. And so there,
How
he
was that
just,
for you?
I was really at that time, at that point in time now, because I love the city. At that point in time, I was happy to be back home with my mother. I felt safe. I felt
Right.
safe because my
You're
family was
familiar.
here.
This is your
Right,
familiar surrounding.
right.
Okay.
And so I
That
felt
makes sense.
safe to be back home with her.
So how is it that you and his sister were able to still work that out? You guys have become good friends?
We did. We became really good friends.
Okay, good.
She's a good person. She always had been a good person. Rather, she never sided with the wrong that her brother did. She never sided with his wrong. She knew he was wrong, and she held him accountable for that.
I like that. I
And
like
so
that.
we continue to be friends.
Okay. So now you're back in Abilene, and do you
Hmm.
meet someone else while you're
I did.
waiting for him to get out? Were you waiting for him or you just didn't
I
care about
wasn't.
him?
I really
You were
didn't,
done.
because at that time, at 22 years old, I didn't deal with, I guess, people that went to jail. That was not a part of my life. You know, it wasn't in my family. People going back and forth to jail, and just that type of life was not a part of me. That was the first experience that I had with that.
It's kind
And
of
so
shell
I
shocked,
thought,
huh?
no, yeah. Once I
Yeah.
thought he's gone, he's a guy that goes to prison. I can't be with him anymore. You know,
Right.
that's not what I want for myself and my daughter.
Exactly. Exactly. So you're back in Abilene and you meet someone else?
I did. I came back to Abilene, I guess for about a year. Whitney had turned, she was 2 years old. She was 2 years old at that time. And I was working here at the Taylor County Courthouse. And that particular day, the day that I met him, I was working for the elections office, and it was early voting. Early voting. He was from California, which is going to be my next husband, Stephen. I don't mind saying his name. Stephen Hart. Today is his birthday. Um,
Happy birthday.
he's from California, and um, he was at the courthouse getting a. He was a contractor for United Artists. So he had to come down and get a. He was at the county clerk's office, which is the office across from where I was, and he had to go in to do some business, get his DBA. So I was standing outside of our office talking to another lady. We were trying to get some voters in and out. So I went back into the office and I saw him coming my way, and I told my boss, I said, "This guy's coming in here to talk to me. I bet he's coming to."
You just
And
knew
she's,
it.
yeah, I really did. I said, "He's coming to talk to me." And so he came in, and his first question was, "So what do I need to do to vote?" And I told him, I said, "You know, you are not here to vote. You are here to talk to me." And he just laughed. He said, "Yeah, I am."
I love it. I love it.
So we went through a conversation, and at that time, I never gave my phone out to a guy ever. That was a no. You can give me yours, but I wouldn't give you my phone number. So that particular day, Stephen, he asked me for my number, and I said, "You know what? Let me give you my number." I said, "Maybe because," and he told me he was from California. He was here doing business, and he was going to be here for some months. And he was at the county clerk's office to get his business taken care of. And so I told him, "Well, why don't you let me show you around the town? You know, you're new here, you don't know anybody, and I'll be more than happy to show you around." And so
Now, what made you do that? Were you attracted to him at this point,
I
or
really, well, to be honest with you, I was attracted. It's so funny because he was on the phone there talking to his mother. And I could hear, when I was outside of the office, I could hear his voice. And then I heard him mention God. His conversation
mm,
with his mother. His conversation with his mother is what drew me,
I
because
love
I
it.
heard him talking about God, and mom, just pray for me, keep me in your prayers. I'm gonna do something different here in Texas. And So when I heard that, I was like, anytime you talk about God, you get my attention. My attention.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
Yeah. So
That's sexy to me. Yeah.
right, exactly.
But you can't be fake because I can
Right.
tell the difference. But go
That's
ahead.
exactly right. That's
Right,
exactly
right.
right. So anyway, I gave him my number. Told him to give me a call. So a couple of days later, he gave me a call. And he was like, I'd like to meet you. And I did tell him I had a daughter. During our conversation, I had a 2-year-old daughter. He said, and he told me he wanted to meet me. So I told him, sure, why don't you come over? So we set up a time for him to come over. And what really, really touched my heart about him and my daughter was the fact that when he showed up to my house, he showed up with a big stuffed animal,
Oh,
um, a pizza for her
oh,
to eat. Now during the conversation on the phone, we were gonna go and go ride around, and then we were gonna get something to eat. I never told him that my daughter would be. I thought, I was actually going to take my daughter down the street to my mom's house because I was living down the street at the time. Me and my sister were living together, and I was going to take her to my mother. And so I just assumed he thought it was just going to be me, but apparently he it didn't matter. He still showed up at my
wow.
door with a
That's
pizza
impressive. I like that.
and an animal for my daughter. So when he came in, I was like, wow. I was like, well, hold on. I said, let me go ahead and walk my daughter to my mom's house and we can go. He was like, no, why don't you take her with you? And I was said, okay. And at that time, my daughter was really mesmerized. She was just standing there looking at him. And
Oh,
so we stayed for a little while. She ate her pizza. Then we jumped in the car. We went riding, and I kind of showed him the town. And I went back. I came back home, and then he left and went to his house, to the motel that he was living in, staying in until he found a
now did you
place.
see him again?
I did. I saw him again a couple of maybe 2 weeks later because I was kind of busy. I saw him again. He asked me to go out with him, and I did. We went out to the movies and we went to eat. And he was living, because he was new here, he was living at a motel. And it's so funny because a lady that was working there actually um, made sure that she met me for the one time. And she made sure that he called me every day.
Oh,
Her and him gained a relationship, and her name is Cindy. And she, anyway, her and her husband,
sounds like she was looking out for you.
she was, and I
It
didn't know
sounds
her.
like it. Yeah.
I didn't know her at the time,
You
but
didn't know her at the time, but she
I didn't
knew
know her.
you.
She knew him. They gained a relationship just for she worked at the motel,
Oh,
and that's
okay,
how they gained a
nice.
relationship. But when she met me, she just fell in love with me for the first time.
Oh, that's awesome.
And yeah, so anyway, I would go to work, get off work, go pick my daughter up, and we would go to his room, or actually to the dining area where they would be eating. And every day we would eat dinner with him. And another thing that attracted me to him with my daughter was she was just mesmerized with him. She really was. I mean, she was so comfortable with him. She
Kids
would
can
talk
tell.
to him,
Kids can
and
tell.
he would start. She'd stand there, and I would try to feed her, tell her sit down, you need to eat. She wouldn't eat her food, but he would feed her, spoon feed her, and she would just eat like she didn't know how to eat. But she was so
Oh,
mesmerized with him. I mean, she really
so
was.
where did this relationship end? Where did it go from there?
Um, at that point, I ended up getting pregnant again. So we got married. We got
Okay.
married. This is my first husband. We got married. I lost that first baby. I lost the baby,
I'm
and then
sorry.
I ended up getting pregnant again, and that will be with Tiana.
Okay.
So anyway, I had married Stephen Hart at that time. I ended up having two other children, Tyrus and Tiana. Um, and he passed away in 1999. He was a really great father. He was my best friend. And I'm telling you, when I say he's a great father, when Whitney was 4 years old and she started Head Start, at that time you had the camcorders that you had to carry. Um, and then he was the first day of school. He took the camcorder and he would follow her all the way, to her classroom, and he just really fell in love with my daughter. He was dad, and she started calling him father. She started, or
Oh,
daddy. She called him daddy. She called me Angie. She called me Angie for a while
What?
until after we got married. He was like, you need to kind of let her know, to have her to call you mother, have her call you mom. So she started calling me mommy, but she
So
used to
you know
call
what
me
I'm
Angie.
noticing as you talk about him? It's like your face just lights up. He
Yeah,
must have been very special to you.
he
He was
was
diagnosed with cancer in what, 98?
in 1998. Uh-huh.
And then he died in 99.
In 99.
So
Uh-huh.
1 year, was he already state? What type of cancer was it?
He had a very rare cancer, which is stomach cancer.
Stomach cancer.
Stomach cancer. He was diagnosed May of 98 and he passed away May of 1999.
And this man she's talking about, Stephen, his birthday is today. So
Yes, today is
let's
his birthday.
honor him today.
Yeah.
In fact, we will dedicate this show to his memory. How about that?
Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. I
Yeah. We'll
appreciate it.
dedicate his memory. So that relationship, how are you coping when he passed away? I mean, this is your best friend. How did you
Um,
deal with that?
I completely, totally shut down after Steve passed away. It's so funny because I, the red cardinal, the bird, I have
Yeah.
there's a significant thing to that. When Steve passed away, let me back up. Before Steve died, I was in church. I've been in church all of my life, no matter what. I've been in
Right.
church. He wasn't in church. He wasn't in church at the time, but he did become a part of the church. He joined the church a little bit before he got cancer. So his relationship with God became really strong in his last year
Good.
of
Yeah.
life. So once he was diagnosed in May of 98 and passed away in May of 99, I remember uh, his death was it wasn't expected to me
Right.
because the day that he actually passed away, we were in the hospital, and I'm probably going somewhere else, but we were in the hospital with a doctor talking about his next month's chemo. He was doing fine that morning. He was doing fine that morning. He had been in the hospital because had gotten he had this surgery and he had gotten a little sick. Um, so that particular morning, May the 10th, my sister, she works for hospice. She used to work for hospice in the big country. I never ever I didn't leave the hospital from at that point. I stayed there every day,
I'm
every minute.
sure. I'm
So I wouldn't
sure.
leave. My mother was taking care of my children. So
Was it getting worse or did it look promising?
it looked promising. We were talking
Right.
about actually his doctor's name was Dr. Haven. And we were talking about the next month's chemo. The doctor said they had gotten all of the chemo, all of the cancer.
The cancer out. Yeah.
So it was looking promising. But that particular day, my sister said, I guess she could see the death on him.
Ooh.
She could see it on him because she worked for hospice. And that particular day, she was like, Angela, why don't you go ahead and get the kids from school? And I said, no, I'm not going to go. And so he told her, he told me, he said, Angela, yeah, why don't you get out of here and go pick up the kids?
He knew it too.
He knew it. And a matter of
Yeah.
fact, he even gave me his credit card because Mother's Day was the following Sunday. He said, go get your dress for Mother's Day. Now, I'm not knowing that was going to be the dress that I was going to bury him in.
Yes. Yeah.
So we were on our way out the door. I was ahead of her and she was behind me, my oldest sister. And she looked back at him. So I'm assuming, I know she could see death on him.
Yeah.
So she looked back at him and he said, hey, sister-in-law, because that's what he called her. He said, thank you. I'm not thinking nothing of it. He said, thank you. And she said, oh, no problem, no problem. And I went on out the door. When I left and went to pick the kids up and I got back to the hospital and I'm just walking in this room, I see all these doctors and machines all over him. And I'm like, what's going on? And they told me the doctor is on the phone. You need to speak with the doctor. So I went to the phone and I'm like, Dr. Haven, what's going on? He says, Stephen's heart is decapitating. I said,
Ooh.
decapitating? At that time, I didn't know what that word meant. So he explained it to me. And I'm like, well, what do I do? What do you want me to do? He said, I can't advise you medically on what to do. He said, all I can tell you from his diagnosis or what's going on, that you're only going to prolong his death.
Ooh.
And Steve had signed DNR, do not resuscitate.
Do not resuscitate.
He
Yeah.
did not want to be resuscitated. We talked about
Right.
that. He said, if
Right.
I ever get sick, let me go. And I said, so I was like, okay, doctor, I guess I have to just let him go. So my sister, a couple, my other two, one of my sisters, another one of my sisters had made it up there at that time. So I had two of my sisters in there with me. And so I just held his hand, and he just slowly took his last breath. You know, the doctor's in there counting between breaths. And I remember they counting to number 23, and I just lost it. I just, the next day I knew they had me a brown bag on my mouth because I was hyperventilating.
Right. I'm
And
sure. I'm
so,
sure.
yeah, so
Because
he,
you lost your best friend that day.
right, he was my best friend. He really
What?
was.
Tell me about. Did you grieve? Did you speak to a grieving counselor?
I didn't.
Why not?
I never got a chance to actually grieve. Back
Mm,
to that cardinal. Um, this is kind of gave me some confirmation that he was okay. My kids was at my mom's, and I was sitting on my front porch, and me and Steve had two chairs on the side of the doors. And so I was like, God, Steve, if you're okay, please send me a sign. Send me a sign. And don't you know, I sat there, and a red cardinal came and
yes.
flew right in Steve's chair. And it
Yes.
sit there. And I knew that that was my sign that he was
Yes.
okay. I knew he was okay.
Mm.
And I promise you, that cardinal sit there for at least 3 minutes. I didn't move because I was just, I don't know, I was dazed.
You know that's very rare.
Yeah, I didn't
That
move.
yeah, that they would
And
sit
then
like
it
that.
flew
Yeah.
away. And to this day, even my children experience this. Anytime we are ever going through anything, even them, there we will see a red cardinal.
Wow.
We see, and
Whew,
they
that
will
gives
tell
me
you that
chills.
we will see a red cardinal, and it lets us know that everything is going to be okay. Whatever you're going
Everything's
through
gonna be.
is going to be
It's gonna
okay.
be all right.
Hmm.
But you didn't speak with a grieving counselor.
I did speak with a grievance counselor at that time because, and let me back up. And I have to say, in '90, when Steve, before he got the cancer, Steve, he did a lot of drinking. He did a lot of drinking. And I had separated from him before he was diagnosed because I couldn't take it anymore. I just, you drink every day, and I can't deal with this. He was not abusive. I just didn't like the drinking.
The drinking, right?
And so I
I can
separated from
understand that.
him. And at that time that I did separate from him, I started seeing the upcoming abuser again. That's when I see he came back into the picture.
The guy
Um,
that was in prison.
yes, he came back into the picture at that time. Um, but once I found out my husband had cancer, I said, no, I have to go back to him. I needed to my children to be with him for the last year of his life. I must go back to him. And so I went back to my husband, and we made it work. And I was with him until his death.
Till his death.
Hmm.
And you are glad you made that decision
I'm
because
very glad I made that
imagine had you
decision.
not and
Right,
found out that he,
right.
yeah. So,
Hmm.
what was your days like, Angela? From the time you buried him, you got to deal with the kids, you got to
Right,
still deal with life. How
right.
were you coping?
I was at that time. I held on to my church family. I
Okay.
was going to a local church here, and there was a lot of ladies that were in there that would come and cancel with me. That was just with me by my side. As a matter of fact, there was a lady, and I don't want to call her name, but her husband recently passed away with cancer. So she
Oh,
was one of the ladies that was there for me when my husband
yeah.
passed away. That was my support, was my family and my church friends, my church friends.
But at some point, the guy from prison got out.
Yeah, he had gotten out before. Yeah, before while I was with my husband. Yeah, he had gotten out.
Okay. So he's
Yeah,
out and you guys see each other again.
right.
Tell me how did that happen?
Well,
Because you weren't waiting on him. You were like, I'm done with him. He
I
went to
was,
prison,
I
but
was.
he got out and now he's looking a little differently to you.
Right. He's
Tell us
looking a
about
little
that.
different. He's saying, apologizing for that life, for taking me away from my home and doing what he did, and that he was okay now, and he
Okay.
would like to try this again. And so, but the mistake that I did make was getting with him too soon after my husband passed away.
Right.
I got
You were
with him too
hurting.
soon.
You were
Yeah,
hurting.
exactly.
You've
I was
forgiven yourself by now, I'm sure.
right, right.
But you were hurting. It's understandable.
Exactly. And I
Yeah.
was vulnerable. I was
Right.
vulnerable at the time. And also, he had a young daughter. He had, between this time, he
Oh,
had
yeah.
had a baby. And so
Okay.
that baby was introduced in my life. And she
Okay.
became so close to me. You know, she was like, she's my daughter. She was my
Where's the
daughter.
mom? Where's mom?
The mom was not in her life at that
Okay.
time. He raised her.
Oh, so
He
he was
was
a
raised.
single father.
Yeah, he
Okay.
was a single father.
All right.
So they both came back into my life, and I was with him for a year, and then by that time, she had gotten really close to me. She was calling me mommy. I was mommy to her. I guess she was probably about 9, maybe year old, a year and a half when I met her. And so I became mommy, and her brothers and sisters, my kids were her brothers and sisters. They had became really close. And so we just became a little family.
I'm starting
And
to see why you're so liked and why
right.
so many people love you, because
Hmm.
it just comes out of your pores. The love that you have for people.
Right.
I can feel it even in this broadcast.
Hmm.
So you meet him up and he's telling you, and you're lonely at this
Right.
point. So you say,
Right.
okay, you know what? Everybody deserves a second chance. Let me give
Right.
him a second chance. But it didn't go quite like you wanted it. Now tell
Right.
us,
Right.
take me to that day when you realized, uh-oh, this is not like I thought.
Okay, so we were dating, and then at that time, because when Steve passed away, I was at the law firm. I ended
Hmm.
up working at a law firm. Um, I was dating him, and then one morning he didn't. He took my car that night and didn't show up that night. Come back home. And I was like,
Hmm.
okay, so what I know from the last time is when you leave and don't show back up, you're into something.
Yeah.
So at that time, I took one of the girls' cars from my job, and I went riding looking for my vehicle, and I found my vehicle. I found it in a drug area. I didn't see him anywhere around, so I opened my door and I just laid on the horn. So I figured wherever he's at, they coming out
He's gonna
because it's
hear.
gonna
Yeah.
scare everybody in there. This
Right.
horn's gonna scare, and they did. They came out like little rats from everywhere. He came out and I told him I'd give me my keys. I need my keys, and he was doing drugs. He was back doing drugs. He's I had a gold necklace on my neck, and he snatched the necklace off my neck. I guess to get that so he could get more money to get more drugs. And that was the first sign of aggressiveness. That's the only sign that I saw. So again, I'm still, and at this point, I had never went to a grieving counselor. I kind of just, I didn't grieve.
It sounds
I
like
didn't
you're
grieve.
adding more on
Right.
top of the
Adding
fact that
more
you lost
grief.
your husband.
Right. Right.
So he snatched the necklace, and what excuse did he give you about that aggression towards you? What
Uh,
did he
he
say?
didn't, nothing. He just walked away. He walked away. Him and his friends, there were people that he was with. They just left and went walking down the street. So I got in my car. There was another person with me, so that if I found my car, she can go ahead and take that car back. So I got in my car and I went on back to work. And
Okay.
I didn't see him for a couple of days. I didn't see him for a couple of days. At that time, at that time, I had his daughter with me. His daughter was still a part. She was in my house.
Wow.
At that evening, I went and packed her stuff and took her to her grandma's house. I said, I can't, deal with this. He's out there. I can't deal with this. And she cried. She cried so
Oh.
much I couldn't leave her.
Oh.
She had my heart. The baby had my
Oh.
heart. I was mommy to her, and
You were
she
the
cried.
only mommy she
He was
had.
on. Yeah, her
Yeah.
her grandmother kept her for a day or so, and she told me, she said she's crying a lot because she wants to be
Oh.
with y'all. And so I went back and got
Oh.
her. I went back and got her. And I think because I needed, she needed, I felt like she needed me. I was her mommy. And I
Mhm.
was willing to keep her, despite if me and him were not together or not. I was
Right.
going to keep her. If he would let me keep her, I was going to keep her because she loves me and I loved her and my kids loved her. And so there again, I allowed him to come back into my life.
So he came back
He came
after
back.
a couple of days and
Yeah,
came.
came
What did he
back.
say when he came back? I'm sorry.
I'm
Was it the
sorry,
regular
I
routine? Okay.
relapsed. I'm going to go start going to meetings. And
Okay.
so he did the whole ordeal, went started going to meetings, getting himself together. And for a while, he was doing really good. He did good. He did really good. So I then, a couple of months went by, I decided I'll marry him. So we got married.
Okay.
We got married and then we
Did you
moved.
consider adopting the little girl
I
or?
did. I did.
Okay.
At that time, I wanted to do that. That was in the plans. That was in the
Right.
plans. And of course, but with legal things, you have to get the permit. I would
Right.
have to get the mother's. It's just a lot of legal work that would have to
Right.
be
Of
done.
course. Of course.
Once we got married, we moved to back to the Metroplex. I moved to Arlington, Texas. Again, me and him, we left the children here with my mother while we got situated.
Okay.
Um, so I guess the kids were probably here for maybe with my mom for maybe 30 days. And we went
Okay.
back, came back and got the kids. We ended up, we had gotten a house in Arlington. Very
Okay.
nice home. He got us a really nice home. He was a welder. He made good money, so he was able to take good care of us. Had gotten a really, really nice home. And so we went and got the children. And I was getting ready to enroll them in school. Let's set the first, let me see. Yeah, getting ready to enroll them in school. Um, I got them in school, but they never made it that day to school because he took off on an adventure.
Oh.
So he was gone again out in the Metroplex somewhere. I couldn't find him. So we were left there. We only had one vehicle at that time, one family vehicle. So my kids couldn't go to school that day. I had no idea where he was. He wasn't answering the phone. So we were just stuck.
How long did that go on that you couldn't get the kids in school?
It didn't go on it didn't go on too long because I called my family to come get us.
Okay.
So they came and picked us up. I left him there.
You left the house,
I
everything.
left the house and everything. I got
Okay.
clothes, children, and me and my four children. We came back to Abilene
Abilene.
uh,
Okay.
at that time.
So then eventually he came and found you.
He did. He came. He ended up coming back to Abilene. Um, and once again, the baby, I was seeing her going. She was with her grandmother at that time. I had to leave her with her grandmother because at that time I was done. I thought I was. I was done with that. I wasn't gonna adventure into that again. So I took her to
Because you
her.
knew that you didn't have any legal rights if you weren't with him.
Right, exactly.
Right. So I
Exactly.
understand that.
And
Right.
then too, I was like, well, if I disconnect from her, I can disconnect from him. I hated it. I didn't want to.
I
And
know. I can
I really
imagine.
didn't. But I did. And so I stayed in Abilene for a little while. When I turned 18, Abilene just was not it for me. I've always left Abilene, but I've always ended up back
Always
here.
come back.
I always come back. So
Yeah.
again, I ventured out again and I left Abilene. I don't know how months later that was, but
Without him, you're on your
without
own
him.
now with the kids. Okay.
Yes. And I
All
moved to
right.
Tulsa, Oklahoma,
Okay.
where I have two sisters that live there. So I moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Me and my children, we moved up there with my sister, and I began working. And um, eventually, I allowed him to come to Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Now let's talk about that.
Hmm.
Let's talk about that because this is where everything turns the corner with everyone who suffered from domestic violence.
Right,
What was that thing? Because you didn't need him. That
right,
was obvious.
right.
You are a very smart lady. You're doing things on your own anyway. You're raising your
Hmm.
kids. What was it that made you just get a little softy for him and say, "Okay, you can come
Hmm.
out here"? What was it?
I really don't know. I felt like in my mind I could fix him.
Right.
I really did. I felt like
So
because I
many
know
people
the
do.
potential that he had in him,
Yeah.
and I'm like this.
Because for
That
him to be a welder, he wasn't a he had to be very intelligent to be a welder. That's
he's
a
a
pretty
very
difficult
intelligent guy,
job.
very
Yeah.
intelligent guy,
But he
and
just had a drinking problem.
right, and I
Yeah. I
just
mean,
knew that I could save him. In my mind, I could save him. Now I have to go back to Arlington. I forgot. This is why I left Arlington. I didn't leave directly after he left on that adventure. It was about a week later when I left. Um, I was working. I had started working. It was a week later. I did get the children in school. I think they were there for 1 week, and I was at home in the closet getting some things, and then this was the first act of violence. I was there, and the next thing I know, he had hit me in the back of my head with his
With
fist, and with his fist, and I went to the ground, and I was like, "Why did you hit me?" I didn't understand why he hit me. I just did not understand. He wouldn't say, "You know what you're doing," and so I didn't understand it. I really didn't. I called his
is this the
sister.
time when your contacts came out?
No,
No, this is at that time.
uh-uh, uh-uh.
Okay.
I told his sister, your brother hit me, and I don't know why he hit me, but I have to. That that morning, I forgot. I realized that he came to my job with a guy that worked with him, and I was wondering why is he coming up to the courthouse? You know what? And I mean, you should be at work. Well, he came with this guy um, to the job. I later found out he brought this guy to identify me to make sure that this was the person that he saw. Well, this guy saw me at a store getting out of a vehicle. My sister-in-law sent me to the store to meet a person for her to get some help. She needed financial help. This man she was at work, so I went for her. I went to go pick up money for her. So I met this guy at a convenience store in Arlington, Texas. This is a big city. Apparently, this guy was the guy that he brought to the store to identify me my job to identify me.
Yeah.
Apparently, he was at the store at that time. What a coincidence!
What a coincidence!
What a
Oh my gosh.
coincidence! He saw me get out of my car vehicle and get into this man's. I sit down with the door open and got the money because my first thoughts was I'm not gonna reach in this man's car because people are gonna think I'm doing drugs. So we're gonna open up this door, and I let him give me the money. I don't want people seeing him hand me cash. So he gave me the money. I got it and took it to his sister.
Now I have questions about that. That right there would have made me a little cautious. Why didn't she go get the money for herself?
Well, she was at work. She was at work.
I don't know about that one, Angela. I would have to say no because I don't know if you're setting me up. I don't know if someone's setting me up. I don't know if this is a cop. I don't know if this is dirty money. I don't know.
Right. No, no, I knew at the time she was getting ready to be evicted. Oh, so okay. she needed some financial help. I knew it. I knew she needed some. So anyway, that's what happened. And this guy apparently saw me.
And that's why he hit you.
That's why he
didn't ask any questions.
He didn't ask any questions. I guess he thought I was seeing another guy.
Did you go to the hospital to see if there was any damage, internal damage?
I didn't. Did
you have a headache?
I did. I had a headache.
Okay, I had a headache. So you just took something for the headache and just...
Right, and I laid down.
There was another time, though. But so when was the next time?
Right. So the next time is when I allowed him to come to... I moved to Oklahoma, and I allowed him to come. Now, in between this time, I married him. You have to remember that I would catch myself at times crying, weeping and grieving. I'm grieving still for my husband. I never had a chance to grieve. He wouldn't allow me to grieve.
What do you mean he wouldn't allow you? If he heard you crying, he would tell you shut up?
Yeah, he would. Why are you crying? That man is dead. Just real, just different ugly things about me grieving. So I would straighten up and hold it in there. But the next sign of abuse was when we moved to Oklahoma.
Okay.
Oklahoma. He had went on an adventure. Again.
This is like the third, fourth time now.
He went on an adventure. The children were outside playing, and I don't know if it was because he was wanting to go back out there or what it was, but that was the actual first beating that I received. Jesus. The first beating.
Now lead us up to it, Angela. I mean, I want you to, if you can talk about it, because I know these things are very difficult to talk about. Mm-hmm. Lead us up to that morning and what led up to this beating.
This first beating.
Yeah.
Because he went out on an adventure. He tricked me into telling me that he owed some guys some money. I mean, it was a whole setup, and I didn't know anything at that time. I'm just completely dumbfounded to drugs.
You're not alone, Angela. There's so
Yeah,
many women, and that's why your story is so important.
right. I
So,
was
okay.
so dumbfounded to that, and but I do remember him telling me. I'll get back to that, but anyway, that particular day he had it set up that he owed these people the money. They came, I gave him the money. He left, and then the next time he came back, he wanted some more money, and I wouldn't give it to him. So it just ended up in a uh,
How
abusive.
much money are we talking about that he was wanting?
He wanted me just to. He didn't say just I need some money. Give it, he
Oh,
wanted
okay.
money. He
Right,
didn't
right.
say.
So
So
you wouldn't give it to him, and then what?
he wouldn't give it to. I wouldn't give it to him, and then he hit me. So that's he
Where did
said.
he hit you? What did he do?
The first time it was he would never hit me in my face. He only hit me in my face one time. Most of my abuse, he would hit me in my head. I ended up with a lot of head, I would say head injuries, a lot of bumps and bruises in my head and my
Jesus.
body.
Jesus.
He would mess with my face. He only did that one time, only one time. So
So
the
he's hitting
scars
you
will
in the
always.
head and
Yeah, and I'm screaming, and the kids were outside. I didn't want the kids to see. I'm screaming,
right,
please
right,
stop, please
right.
stop, and of course the beat is kept. And I remember the neighbor across the street knocking on the door, but he wouldn't open the door. So I endured that beating, and then he left, and um,
Now, when you're getting beaten, obviously you're being hurt, you're bleeding.
right.
Did you care for your wounds yourself? Did you ever go to the hospital?
So there was two of my beatings that I did end up going to the hospital because I was beaten so bad on the my one of my legs with a baseball bat. The bruises were so horrible, and then
A
the last
baseball
beating,
bat?
a
An
baseball bat.
aluminum baseball bat?
No, it was wood. It was a
A
wood
wood
baseball
one?
bat,
Oh,
broken bat.
Jesus.
That happened in another city we moved to. Yeah,
Okay, so this first beating was obviously not the last.
it wasn't. It was the beginning of a lot
It
of
was
it.
the beginning of a lot of beatings. Okay.
Beginning of a whole lot.
At this point, this very first one, because the answer to what you're going to answer me on this one is very common with a lot of women that have been through this. This first one, did you think there would be another one, or you felt like, oh, he was just having a bad day, he's not going to do this
I
again?
did. I felt
Right.
like he was. Hey, he was just upset. He had went out and did what he did. He's upset. He's coming down from the drugs, and he's gonna be okay. It's gonna
It's
get
going to be
better
okay.
because life was good. I mean, we had a nice apartment. We were in an apartment at that time.
Did that have an effect on your staying, the fact that you were living good? Did
We
that
were
have
living.
anything to do
Yeah,
with it?
we were living
Okay,
good, and the children, they didn't see any of the abuse at the time.
so
They
they were
were,
happy.
yeah, they
Right.
were happy. They were happy. They had everything they wanted. In their rooms, they had bicycles. They had everything a child
So you
would
were
want.
taking these beatings to keep your family together.
Basically, yes, I
Okay,
was because
so
I wanted to have a father for my children
while you're still trying to grieve
while
over
I'm
your
still trying
husband.
to grieve.
Jesus Christ, you're a
Hmm.
remarkable woman.
Hmm.
So after this beating, take us to the next one.
So the next one, we ended up coming back to Abilene, Texas. I moved
So you
back
guys
to
are moving
Abilene,
around a lot.
moved around a lot, and
Okay.
because of the field that he was in, a lot of his job, if he found a higher paying job,
He was
he
getting
would
it.
go for it. He
Oh
would go
yeah,
for it,
I don't blame him for that.
and a lot of his jobs kept him on the road too. It
Okay.
kept him on the road. We ended up moving back to okay, no, that's when the drug problem started. That's when my drug issue came in. After that first beating there in Tulsa, Oklahoma, he
So
went
I
to
know you did that with the neighbor. What I know you were
right.
hurting,
I
but you'd
was.
never been around. If you had never been around drugs, do you think he introduced you to this because you tried drugs?
No,
Why?
no, he didn't. I I remember him telling me, "Stay away from the girl next door because she does drugs." I remember
He
him
told
telling
you
me that.
that.
He told me that.
Wow.
Stay away from that girl next door because she do drugs. And I remember it was he went to work. It was a Saturday. He went to work and it was a Saturday. And I remember the kids went outside. They were outside playing because there was a playground in our area. and they were, which was close to the house, and they were outside playing with the other kids. And I just had a total meltdown of grieving for Steve. I mean,
Oh,
it was probably one of the first worst that I had ever had, you know, being with him. And that day was really, really, really hard. And it just, my whole my whole world just seemed like it was dark. It was
right.
dark. You know, the beatings had started. It was dark.
Mm,
And I thought, God, I don't want to feel this. I don't want to feel another
I know it.
hit. I don't
Yeah.
want to feel the fact that I'll never see Steve again, that his children have to grow up without him. They'll never know their dad. They knew him at, you know, because he was, my son was 3, my daughter Tiana was 4, and Whitney was 8 when Steve passed. 30, I was 31 and Steve was 37. So that
Wow.
particular day, it grieving hit me really, really hard.
Now, did you
And
feel like calling somebody if it was that bad, or just say, "Look, I need y'all to listen to me"? You didn't want to call
right, I
anybody?
didn't. I did. I guess because I had pretty much sheltered myself because I didn't want my family to know that he was putting his hands on me. For one
Jesus,
thing, I didn't want them to know that that was going
because
on.
you knew what they would do.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so I grieved that particular day, and I was like, Lord, I don't want to do this. I don't want
yeah.
to do this. I don't want to feel this. And that day, I went to the girl next door, and I told her, I need you to go find me some marijuana. So I had her to go find me some marijuana that particular day, and then um, I knew that she was doing something else, but that didn't do it for me. And I said, what? And I asked her, I said, what do you do? And she basically introduced me to it and told me this is what you do. And I said, and she I won't go into the usage, but she told me how to use, and she said, you're gonna forget about all of your problems. You'll forget about
What,
all of your problems.
what? Can you say what it was that she introduced you to?
It was cocaine, and
Cocaine.
I
Okay.
laced my marijuana with cocaine at that
Okay.
time. I laced it with
Does
cocaine.
that make you feel different or
It
better? I
did.
mean,
It
how
made
does
me
it?
feel a little bit happier. A little bit
Okay.
happier.
Okay.
I was able to cope with the day. And so that began then. And I did that particular day. And then after a while, I didn't do it anymore. I didn't
Okay.
do it for a while until I felt the need to grieve. When I would grieve, felt like I wanted to grieve, I would go and tell her to go get what you could normally get for me.
So how often were you doing this though?
At that particular time, I wasn't doing it very often. I wasn't doing it very often. I didn't start doing it often until we came back to Abilene, and that's when the beatings became really severe, really
Okay,
severe.
so let me bring everybody up to speed here.
Hmm.
So you lost your husband, you're grieving him, you have these
Hmm.
4 children to take care of. You have a man that's beating you whenever he feels like it,
Right.
leaving whenever he feels like it. And
Hmm.
now you've added even more into your life with
Right.
doing drugs and cocaine and
Hmm.
marijuana.
Hmm.
And now the beatings are getting even more intense. Why are the beatings
Intense.
getting more intense at this point, do you
Because at
think?
this point we had both. We were both using. We were both using. I knew that he was using. He had went basically back to it. When we came back to Abilene, he moved to his mom's. We were married. He moved to his mother's house. I moved to his mother's house. My children stayed at my mother's house because I didn't want them there. I never
Right.
wanted them to see me get beat by this man. But the beatings persisted. They persisted. And at that time, I had pretty much gotten, as I felt as though this is the way was going to be for me. This is what it
All took a
was.
big turn.
It, yeah.
What can you describe how what he would do to you when he was beating you? Can you describe that for
When
us?
I can say a lot of women that I have talked to that have been through abuse, they have told me the same thing. When an abuser is abusing you, it is you can see a demonic spirit in their eyes. I
Wow.
mean, they
And
look
you
like
saw
a
it. You
demon.
saw it?
Yes, I say he looked like a demon when he would beat me. He looked like a total demon, and the he would hit me like a man, like a man.
Oh,
And like I
with
said,
his
most of
fist.
with his fist. They never put me. Only one time they hit me in my eye to make my eye black,
Oh,
and we didn't live here then. But most of my beatings were on the side of my head, in the back of my head, in my chest, in my stomach, in my back, my legs. I was kicked. Uh, just it just beat like a man, like I was a man,
And you just took it.
and I
Did
took
you
it.
fight back?
I never fought back because I couldn't. He would overpower me. He was
Right.
strong. I could never fight back.
Did you ever
I,
call the cops on him?
I called many a times. At that point, we had we moved again. We left Abilene. He moved. I think now that I think about it, he was taking me away from my family every time.
Isolation.
Isolation.
Yeah.
He would isolate
Yeah.
me. We moved to another city, and he would in the other cities. That's when the most of the beatings would occur. I would call the police. I've called the police several times here in Abilene. I would leave him and go back to him. I would leave him. Me and my children would end up in shelters, different shelters in different cities.
So
Um,
wait a minute. So you're running away from him. So it seems
right.
like you wanted to get away. So you're going into shelters and then you go back to the house.
I would go
Were
back
your
to him.
kids like concerned? Like, wait a minute, Ma, where's daddy? Why are we leaving?
Right.
Did
Well,
they ever question you?
they didn't they most of the times that I would leave them with my mother until I would get situated wherever we were. And once we got situated, I'd go back and get my kids, and then they bring them to where we were living. But they never seen the actual physical abuse. They
That's
didn't
good that
see
you kept them
any of
from
the,
that.
yeah, they didn't never
I think.
seen. They saw the after effects, the bruises,
And
but
did
they
they
never
ask you,
saw.
Mom, how did you get this? What is wrong? What
And
did
well, my family, my mom would tell them, that man is beating on her, or, it was just, they knew. I just told them,
so did your
he was
family
hitting me.
try to intervene? Did they say, look, you need to leave this man. He's
They
going to
did.
kill you.
They
And you didn't
did.
listen.
I did. And at that, that by then I was doing more, the drugs had came. I was doing it in a different way. I'll put it that way. I was doing it in a more intense way that got me addicted to it.
Okay.
I became totally
How easy for
addicted.
those people that are watching, how easy is it to get addicted to drugs?
It's very easy to get addicted to drugs. If you're using on a recreational, I thought, well, mine was begin recreational, what they call recreational. Recreational is every now and then, and you're
Right.
using to to not have the pain, some type of pain, or you
Right.
go to a party, you're using it, and I was recreational. But as the beatings got more and more, the drug abuse got more and more, because I felt like if I'm high, I won't feel this. I won't feel this.
Oh,
And his excuse was he was beating me because I was doing drugs. That was his excuse for
wow.
beating me.
Oh my gosh. So I it is like I hear these stories a lot because
Mhm.
women, and nobody is judging you. Nobody is judging any of
Right.
my guests because we've all been in a situation,
Hmm. Hmm.
where nobody could tell us what to do. We felt
Right.
like we knew what was best.
Right.
And I trust that you knew that you were doing what you thought was best.
I
But at
did.
any point did you feel like I got to get out of here? This man's going to kill me.
I did. I did. And we were living back here in Abilene at that time. And I divorced him. I divorced him. He didn't know I divorced him. I was working in the legal field. I divorced him without him knowing I divorced him.
Did you think he would come after you by divorcing him? What
I
did you
I
think we were
didn't
going to accomplish?
I did. I told him. He didn't know I divorced him until, a matter of fact, I was at the Texas Workforce Center. I don't know what I was there for. He was there also. He was coming up the stairs, and I had his copy in my purse. And as he was coming up the stairs, I gave him his copy of his divorce paper. I said, "I am no longer your wife."
Oh
And he
my
was like,
gosh.
"What? What? Can we go outside and talk about it?"
I'm
So we
glad
went
you told
outside.
him in public though.
Yeah, we
So
went
you told and
outside and talked about it. And I told him, I just couldn't do it anymore, and I didn't want to be in that relationship, and I just couldn't do it anymore.
how
So
did he receive that?
I stayed away from him for a little while. For a little while,
But you went back.
I went back. I was divorced for
Oh,
him, and I
so
went
you're
back with him.
divorced. You're free. God has
I'm
opened the
free.
door for you to get out
I'm
and you
free.
went back to him. Were you
I went
still in
back to
love with
him.
him?
I was. I was in
Okay.
love with
So
him.
that's why you
That's
went back to him.
Yeah. I At
Okay.
that time I was totally in love with him. I thought he was
Oh,
my world. And
Oh.
and I'm like, here I go again.
Sounds like you were addicted to him too.
I was. I
Yeah.
really was. I was. And so anyway, we ended up leaving Abilene, moving to another city. He had gotten a job in another city, and we ended up going up to Lubbock, Texas. We moved to Lubbock, Texas, and we
Okay.
were there. Um, the beatings had subsided for a while, and I thought, okay, we're good. We're okay. This is good. This is going to work out. I ended up getting a job at the courthouse. He was a welder. He was welding, and we were looking for a place for the children to come so we can go back and get the children and bring them with us. Well, that one day, we had one vehicle at that time. I was late 5 minutes from picking him up from work. And he sat in the car. When he sat in the car, his fist came to the side of my head and he hit me so hard that my head hit the side of the window, the passenger side. And he just hit me really hard and started, of course, cursing me. You don't have no business being late. When I get off work, you need to be here and blah, blah, blah. What abusers do. And we left and I went home. He didn't. At that time, my children never made it to Lubbock because I left and I left him. That same day, he beat me really. That's when he beat me with the baseball bat.
So tell us
And
about that, because I think in my write up that you gave me, you said this was the worst one.
no, that one the worst
So
one.
this isn't the worst one
No, this
yet.
wasn't the worst one yet. No.
Okay, so let's talk about
Um,
this one.
this one, and I had so many worse ones so many bad ones that I didn't talk about. But this one, I guess he was still upset because I was
Wait a
five
minute,
minutes.
Angela. Wait a minute. You say I've had so many bad ones. So you
Mm-hmm.
were beaten. How many times would you say? 10
Oh,
times, 20,
oh no,
30
probably between 20 and 30 times
on
between
separate occasions.
on separate occasions.
Oh
Yeah, yeah.
God.
I can remember one beating.
Oh,
Um, yeah, I was driving down the street, and he was trying to tell me to. This was when we were in to get back to. We were going back on our way back to Arlington, and I was trying to run from him. I wouldn't. I was not, and I was doing my thing here also. And I was in my car. He was in his vehicle. He blocked me in the middle of a 4 lane, two lanes here, 2 lanes across here. Blocked me on a very very busy street called, the name is Judge Ely. Blocked me, and trying to stop me from. Well, I was trying to get to my mom's house because I knew he was going to beat me. Because he found my vehicle, he was behind me. I knew he was going to beat me. He pulled out in front of me, and I stopped. I couldn't go anywhere. He got out of his vehicle, and
Jesus.
I was trying to raise my window up, but he had something, and he hit the window and broke the window. And the next thing I know, he's yanking my hair and beat me in my head, and people were stopping, and he was yelling, "That ain't not. This is none of your business. This is none of your business." And I'm thinking, I hope somebody called the police. And he
Jesus.
beat me in my head so bad. There were bumps and knots. I mean, knots everywhere. By the time, and he was like, "Get in the car, get on that freeway." So I got on the freeway. He's behind me, and he made me get back to Arlington. And when I got there, the knots were so bad. They were there for a week. I didn't go see it. I didn't go seek
Wait a minute.
medical
Because I
attention.
must have missed something. You were headed to your mother's house. He
Yes.
forced you to turn around.
Uh-huh.
So you never made it to
I
mom.
never made it to my
But
mom's
you
house.
knew that going back to wherever you guys were going, he could have possibly killed you.
Right. I did. But I got in front of him, and I got to the Metroplex.
And
And
what happened when you got back there? Did he beat you some more?
he didn't beat me anymore because we were at his nephew's house. So he wouldn't do that at his nephew's house. He didn't do that. And it's so funny because I
Oh,
can't remember
Jesus.
how I ended up, but we ended up back in Abilene. We were in Abilene. I don't know if we just went for that weekend. I really
And you
don't
didn't go to the
remember.
hospital? You got
I
knots on
didn't.
your head.
Not big
You
knots.
could have gone to sleep and not
Right.
waken up.
Right. And
But you
it
knew
would,
this.
yeah, I knew that, and it wouldn't have mattered to me at that time. Yeah, because there were days that I was wishing that I didn't wake up. I wanted to die. I didn't want to live that life. I prefer to have been dead than to be beaten all the time.
Did you ever
Yeah,
try to kill yourself?
I did. I had a. This was again. We were living in Fort Worth, Texas. He had went on a. He had went on a job site out of Fort Worth for several days, for about a week, and then that week I can remember morning. I mean, it's like I grieved for Steve the entire time. Whenever I got a chance to, whenever I got a chance to, and I was so broken from being beat and abused that one day I got into my vehicle, and I'm telling you, this was nobody but God. I know angels, God sent out angels, dispatch angels to
Yes, he
protect you.
does. Yes,
I got
I believe
into,
in it.
at that point, I was driving a BMW. I got into my BMW and I got on a freeway called 820. And on 820, there's a curve, and there is probably, I guess, about 5 lanes. It was around 3 o'clock that afternoon, and I remember as I got close to the curve, I hit the gas. I said, you know what? I didn't want to live. I wanted to kill myself. I was trying to kill myself. I wanted to go off of that 820
Yeah.
bridge. I hit that bridge. I hit my gas, and I just started going as fast as I could across the lanes. I was in the middle lane, across these 2 lanes. Didn't know whether cars were coming or not. I had just totally blanked out. I went toward the freeway, toward that bridge, and as I went as fast as I could, and I let the wheel go. When I let that wheel go, I remember closing my eyes, and then I opened my eyes, and I'm telling you that wheel went to spinning by itself. It spun, and it took me away from the embankment or that bridge that I would have went over. It just started spinning, and I was there spinning in the middle of 820, just in just in circles until the car came to a rest. Now, at this time, normally there are a lot of cars on that freeway. There were no cars. There were a few cars, but because they stopped to give me help. A man, I remember a man coming to the door, and I had just had my head down. I was just crying. I don't want to live. I don't want to live. I was just screaming. I don't want to live. I don't want to live. And this man and then another lady, she got in my car. She put me on my passenger side, and they drove me off the bridge and drove me down to to some area to where off the freeway. And they asked me if there's somebody I could. They wanted me to call, and I said I need to call my sister in Oklahoma. I need her to come get me. I need help. And I talked to the lady. I told her, I said I had been using drugs, and I didn't want to live anymore. I had been. My husband beats me, and I did not want to live anymore. And so, to make a long story short, I was able to call my sister. They got to the area, brought and took me to a hospital, to a psych ward, and I was in there for a little while. I didn't want to stay in there because I knew I wasn't crazy. I just didn't want to be
You
there.
were just hurting.
I was hurting,
You were just hurting.
and I know I was just hurting. So I was there for a while, for a couple of hours, and then I ended up going back to where I was living. And
Where he was.
yeah, where he was, but he was still he was still on a job site.
But this still wasn't the last time that he
That
beat you.
wasn't no, that wasn't the last time at all.
Were
Mm-mm.
there times, I know we're going to get to the last time, but how many times were there between this and the last?
Between that and the last time, probably I'm trying to remember what year that was. I think there may have been maybe 5 or 6 more after that. 5 or 6 more after that.
Separate occasions.
Separate occasions.
Always hitting you in the head.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Was it again with the bat?
It was, well, that's how, yeah. Now I'll go back to that. That particular time with that bat, that's when I was late picking him up from work. Um, I was 5 minutes late, and he was still angry at me, and I was doing my thing up there too. You know, it's just that's where I
When
had
you
gotten
say
to that
doing your
point.
thing, what do you mean by that?
I'm doing drugs.
Oh,
I was
okay.
doing drugs. I would go out and use. I would go out and
Right.
use.
So you were
Um,
late picking him up. Right.
right, but
Okay.
that day I wasn't using. I wasn't using. I was just late. I didn't leave my job until I was 5 minutes late leaving my job to go. Then I went to go pick him up. That's why I was late. And he assumed that I was out doing something, I guess.
Right.
And
Right.
so He got me into the motel room, or where we were, because we were going to bring the children up there. And he beat me. I mean, really. And I do remember now that particular beating, he started choking me. He was choking me, and his words were, "Do you see your dead husband yet? Do you see your dead husband yet?" And I'm just, I'm almost completely out. And he finally let me go. But before the choking, he beat me with a broken, I'll never forget, a broken black bat that was probably be about that long. And he beat me in my leg really, really horribly bad. And so I was able to get away. I was able to get away. He went to sleep and I got away. I was able to get away. I remember calling the police. I called the police. He, of course, was able to dodge the police. And they couldn't catch him. So I ended up going to the hospital for a couple of days then, because I had what do you call those intusions, or I had a lot of blood, broken vessel like things on my side of my
Now,
right
when
leg.
you go to the hospital with those kinds of injuries, I'm sure someone reported it to
Yeah, I
the
filed
authorities.
charges that time. I
You
filed,
filed
filed
charges
charges. That was the first charge that I filed against him
after all
in
these
that
years.
county after all these years. In that particular county. That's actually the particular county that got him.
So you filed charges.
I filed
Now
charges.
now we're ready to talk about the worst.
Hmm. Well, the worst
Lead
beating
us up
was,
to it.
okay. So I ended up leaving. I went to a treatment center. I wasn't with him. I got myself together. Uh, I was doing well.
Good for you.
I
Good
was
for
doing
you.
really, really well. He was living here in Abilene. I allowed him again to come where I was after I got out of the treatment center. I was in an apartment. Actually, I had a roommate with. I was roommating with another guy. I was roommating with a guy, and we
But you're
really
not on
were.
drugs at this point.
No, we were friends,
Okay.
and we were just friends. And
Just
but of
friends.
course,
Okay.
he thought, he. I ended up letting him come up there, so to where I was. He moved
Did
up
you
there.
prepare him that you had a male roommate?
He knew it. He knew that I
Okay, so
was
he
with
knew
this
that.
guy.
Okay, good.
And this guy, me and this guy ended up getting into it because he liked me and I didn't want to have anything really to do with him. So he ended up trying to force himself on me. And why I
The
ended up,
roommate?
yeah. So I ended up fighting him. Then I fought him. I fought him and called the police. And they got him. They came and picked him up. And
So he
at that
tried to
time,
rape you? Try to force himself on
yeah,
you?
he tried to force himself
Oh
on me.
my God.
And so, but at Maury, whoa, I almost said his name. He
I
came
think
up
you did say it. Say
he,
bleep.
at that time, I knew he was, I had allowed him to find out where I was. He came to where I was, and we were gonna try again.
Okay,
I was
let me
clean.
ask you, because at this point you have been through hell with this
Right.
man.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even see where there was love left
Right.
or even like left. That's me, because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't live this.
Right.
So you still loved him
I
after all
did.
of this. Did you think
I
he
still
still
loved
loved
him.
you after all he had done to you?
I I guess I did. I did. I
Okay.
thought he really loved me. It was just like, what do you call it? Love hate. I felt like he loved me. He just didn't know how to treat me, but he would
Okay.
figure out how to treat
I
me.
understand it.
And
I understand it.
and two, at that point, I thought it was just, the drugs was playing a big part of the abuse. I had gotten that conclusion in my head
Because
that
that's
if
kind of what
either
you
one of
wanted.
us were not on
Yeah.
drugs, we will be okay.
We'd be okay.
We'll
So
be
you
okay.
he supports you, you support him. We can make it.
Right. We can.
So, but something happened on this
Um,
last time.
this last time he was there, like I said, he was in the same city I was, and I did. I allowed him to come up there. My sister never had met him. The sister that I was living in the city I was living in, she had never met him.
Had
So
any of your family met him
they
at
knew,
this?
yeah, they knew him.
They knew
met
him. Okay,
But
so they knew
she
him.
lived in this city that she had never met him, so she didn't know
Okay.
how he looked. So I pretended like he was someone else. I gave him a whole different name. So we would go to my sister's house. He was a whole different person. She didn't know that was my ex-husband.
So why
She
did
had
you do
no idea.
that? Why did you do that?
Because I knew he was a fugitive. and I didn't want her to turn him in. I didn't want her to know I was with him. I didn't want my
Wait.
family to know that
Okay,
I had
so
allowed
when
him
you
to
say
come
he's
back.
a fugitive, that means he's wanted
He was a fugitive for
for the
the
charges against you. Please.
against me. Against me.
Oh my
Yeah, he was a
gosh.
fugitive for the charges against me. He had went to court and taken care of that. And so
So
I
you
didn't
were
want my
harboring a
family.
fugitive.
Yeah, I didn't want
Okay.
my exactly. I didn't want my family to know that I allowed him to come up to where I was. So they are thinking she's with this another guy, but it was actually my ex-husband because my sister
Wow.
never had met him. She didn't know what he looked like, and I introduced him to her as with a whole
That's
different name.
a whole
And
different
matter
name.
of fact,
Okay.
he was going under a whole different identification
Well,
up
I'm
there.
sure. I mean, wanted.
Yeah,
I'm sure he did.
right.
So, how did she feel? What did she feel about him when she
Um,
met him?
she, I guess, really not much. She was just glad to see her baby sister be okay.
Right.
That
Right.
I went and got treatment. I was fine. I was doing great. Everything was gravy.
So you're working at the courthouse
I'm
now,
working at the courthouse
and you're
now,
doing well. He's
doing
working. No,
well.
he can't work because he's wanted
Well, no, he worked. He had
under a different name.
a different name, different identification, all of that.
How did he get an ID? Don't tell me.
We can't even go
Don't
there.
tell me. I don't
But
want to know
he was a whole
because you
different. He had
might
a
give me
whole
some
different
ideas.
identity. Had a whole different identity.
Okay,
And
so he
so
had a
he
new
was working
identity,
he was working as a welder. He was working as a welder.
but he hadn't changed yet because he beat you again.
Right. He beat me again. And I felt like it was my fault that time, but it wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault.
Why did
I
you feel
did
like it was your fault?
well
Even at first,
because
right?
he jumped on me one time before the last time. He jumped on me, and when he beat me that particular day, I relapsed. I relapsed.
Oh,
I relapsed. After he beat me, I relapsed. I went back out again.
right.
And so I went back out. I was in my vehicle. It was my car. I was gone for a while, and I came back home. And when I got back, no, my car had messed up. My car had messed up, so I had to call him to come and help me to you because my car was messed up. Um, he I think he got a ride, yeah, because he didn't have a vehicle. It was my vehicle. He got a ride to where I was, and they got my car started. Get in the car. I knew then. I seen the demon on him when I got in that car,
What
and
did
I
the
knew
demon look like? Describe it to me.
his eyes would get really really red, and he was just it was just such an ugly look. I mean, just anger, nose flaring up,
Jesus.
and when I seen that, and I thought he is gonna beat the living crap out of me when he get me where we're going. So we went to his motel room because again, I'm still trying to get things together so I can bring my kids up there. Went to his motel room, and as soon as I got in there, get in the shower. And I'm like, okay, let me go shower. So I got in the shower. And that when I was in the shower is when he came in there and he opened that shower door and he hit me in my face so hard. This time is when I got hit in the face. He hit me in my face so hard it knocked both of my contacts out of my eye.
Jesus
Both of my
Christ.
contacts out of my eye.
That
He
had to be a hard hit because
It
I can't even
was.
use
It
my
was.
fingers and
Right.
get them out sometimes.
Right.
Okay.
I fell to the ground, water skeeving on me. And get your behind, cussing, get out of there. So I got out of there, dried off, put my clothes on. And he beat me so bad that night. Do
Jesus.
you know that the post? I don't know if you remember on the telephone post, there's this little wire curly thing. It's a
Right.
curly wire. I was beaten with that night. That particular night I had lashes on my back,
And your skin was
on my
open.
skin was open
Yes,
wounds. It
Jesus.
was really really bad. um
Oh
I
God.
when he hit me in my eyes didn't turn black till later on,
They
that a
turned
couple of days
black. Your
later.
eyes turned black.
Yeah, a couple of days later. But anyway, he beat me that all night long, pretty much all like night long.
So
I
he would
remember him.
rest, get up, and beat you some more. Rest, get
Right.
up, and beat you some
And
more.
I remember sitting he wouldn't let me lay on the bed. I was sitting on the end of the bed. I remember him kicking me off the bed and told me, "You lay on the floor like a dog. You sleep on the floor." And so I had to sleep on the floor, no cover, no nothing. And I'm there, I'm seeing blood on my arms, or he done beat me real good. He'd wait, he'd get up, and at that time I had a gun. I had a 9mm in my car, but he knew I had a gun in there. He got my gun. He put the gun to my head several times. Told me he was gonna blow my brains out, and he would cut me up and put me in a plastic bag, and told me what lake he would throw me in, and they would
Oh,
never find me because they didn't know I was with him. Nobody knew I was with him. Not one family knew I was with him. They thought I was with someone
because
else.
you lied for her.
I lied for him. And
Oh
I
God,
just
Angela.
knew the gun was going to go off whenever, because he had his hand on the trigger. And I just closed my eyes and said, well, God is going to kill me. Lord, just take care of my children. But he never pulled the trigger. He never pulled the trigger. Um, he beat me enough and that morning. So about 5:30 that morning, I remember calling my sister, Barbara. And I called her. I said, Barbara, I need you to come over here because I need some gas money. I knew Barbara didn't know. I know Barbara didn't think I, needed gas money, but he didn't know. He didn't have any money, and I told him I didn't have any money. I had some money, but I didn't want him to know it, and it was in my car. And so I told my sister to come over there because I needed to talk to her, to get gas money or whatever. So when she came, was his mistake. Allowed me to go outside. He let me go out to talk to her. Uh, uh, but I had put on before she came. Now let me back up. Before she came, I had put on long sleeves so she could see any of my
She can
bruises.
see, right?
She could see any of my bruises. And I opened the car door to her car door, and I said, Barbara, I said, listen, that man I introduced you to is not who he is. I said, he is my ex-husband. And she just put her hand, she said, Angela, if you don't call the police, I will. I said, Barbara, please let me do this. Let me do it, because if he knows they're coming or he sees them, he's going to run. And if he runs, he's going to kill me this time. I know he's going to kill me because I should have been dead tonight. I said, please just let me handle this. I promise you, when I get to work, I will take care of it. And so he allowed me to get dressed. And by that time,
You had to convince him that you weren't going to leave him, though.
right, I had
Yeah.
got in, I had convinced him that everything's going to be okay. Just let me go to work. I'll come home. We'll just start this all over. We're going to be okay. So, and he had told me, he said that he took my keys. He said, this is my car now. So he took me to work and he dropped me off. And where he dropped me off, the our office, which was the district clerk's office, was above the sheriff's department. And so I had on long sleeves. I let him drop me off. I went, instead of going into where I normally go in, I went directly into the sheriff's office. I
Good for
pulled up my
you.
sleeves and I showed them all the bruises. I pulled up my leg pants as far as I could, showed them all the bruises. They said, ma'am, what's going on? And I told them, I said, my husband beat me all night last night. He's a fugitive. He's wanted. I work up in the district clerk's office, and I need you guys to go get him. So they were telling me, where is he at, and this and that. They pulled up records, and they found out that he's a runner. And then I told him, I said, please, whatever you do, make sure y'all get him, because if you don't get him, he's going to kill me. He's going to come back and find me. He's going to kill me. And so they didn't actually go get him right then. They allowed him to pick me up from work.
That was smart.
They set it up to where, they watched. I was upstairs, and the entire time, his whole entire route to the place, they had sheriff's cars sitting everywhere. They followed him all the way to the place. And whenever I was upstairs with the detective, and the detective said, when your car turns the corner, you identify your vehicle. And
Right.
so I said, I will. So as soon as he turned the corner, I said, that's him. And it was like a movie. Before I knew it, there was probably about 11 sheriff's cars coming out of everywhere. And they blocked him in. They blocked him in. And he hit the gas. He was getting ready to go through the barricade. And they got on the horn and said, called his name and told him, we know who you are. Put your hands out of the window. Come out of the vehicle. And they knew there was a gun in the vehicle. So I told him, I said, my gun is in there. And they were able to apprehend him that way. He gave in, and they were able to apprehend him that way. So
So
that was the
watching
last
that.
beating.
Oh
I
God,
did have
Angela's.
to end up going to get some medical treatment for my wounds that time.
So
It
you
was
knew
really
that
bad.
he was going to kill you. You
I
couldn't
did.
endure another one of those beatings.
I couldn't have. Because I knew that evening it probably would have ended. If I went home, it was going to end.
It was going to
It
end.
was going to end that day. I
I
knew that
believe it
that
too.
day was going to be my last day.
Now, why watching them arrest him? How did that feel to you?
Well, actually, whenever he got out of the vehicle. He had my phone. He had taken my phone. He had taken my phone. He took my phone out of his car. And he broke it in half. At that time, we had flip phones. He broke it in
Oh,
half, and he threw it on the ground. And when I saw him, I literally fainted. Actually, I fainted
oh
the
wow.
because it was all so fast, and I
Yeah,
just
I'm
remember
sure.
getting really weak, and I fainted. And of course, they got me up or whatever, and um, it was they got him. They
Wow.
got him.
So how did that feel watching him finally get arrested? And were you
It was
afraid that he would
at
get
that
out?
I was still scared.
Still
I was
scared.
still
I'm
scared. I
sure.
said, I'm not sure if he's gonna be charged or what's gonna happen, but because of the warrants that he had in another city for the assault, and then these new charges piled up on him, I knew that they were gonna keep him. They were gonna keep him this time, and
So
so they
now you
did.
can rebuild your life at this
Right.
point. You're
Yes.
already still divorced from him anyway.
Right. Right.
So now you
Hmm.
go and what happens? Do you bring your kids eventually to
No,
there?
I went back home. I went back
You just
to
said, "To heck with this, I'm going back
yeah.
home."
I went back home with my where my mother was.
Now, did you go
Yeah,
back into rehab because you had relapsed, or
I did. I did.
okay,
I went to treatment. To be honest with you, I went to a couple of treatment centers, but I ended
okay,
up because I never got counseling for my grieving and the beatings. I had covered myself with drugs. That was my escape from the
exactly,
pain, from the
yeah,
brokenness that I was going
yeah.
through. That was my escape. And I continued to use. I
Did you
continued to
ever
use.
get grief counseling though? Ever?
You know what? I didn't get grief counseling until I became totally clean, and that
Okay,
was, you will not believe this. That was 7 years ago. Was the first
okay.
time that I ever got grieving counseling.
Never too late, sweetie. That's
Yeah,
awesome. How
it
did
was
it
the first
feel
time.
when you finally graduated from that, and now you
It
were clean and
it was good. I was able to to talk to somebody to other people. Um, I have to when I decided to get clean. And this is when I decided to get clean. I had had enough. I had had my enough.
I know, I hear
Me
you.
and my daughter were living in here in Abilene, and my family. To me at the time, I thought they would do things that was harming me, or it wasn't not harming me, but they were doing things to hurt me. They weren't doing things to hurt me. They were trying to do things to help me.
What do you
I
mean by
was
that? They were doing things to hurt you.
okay. So I was living in my mom and dad's house.
Okay.
Um, we were evicted out of there. They evicted us out of there because they knew that I was still doing drugs, and that's so understandable. I understand all of that now. I don't hold them accountable for any of that. I was addicted, so they wanted to get me out of the house. So it's a couple of times that I would go back to the house, and they knew I was there, and the police were called, and I had to leave. But this last time I was back at the house, I knew the eviction was coming. I had
Mm,
been evicted, and I thought, you know what? At that point, I was really, I was really heavy into my usage, very heavy into my usage. I
yeah.
felt like that's who I was. That's who I was going to be. Nothing was going to change. And so that one day, I'll never forget, April 22nd of 2014, I said, God,
Yeah.
if I ever use again, make me sick from it. Make me sick from it. That was
Right.
April the 22nd. April the 23rd, I tried, and I got totally sick. I began
Good.
regurgitating, and I said, you know what, this is it. I told my daughter, I said, we're fixing to leave Abilene. And she's older now. She's grown. All my kids are grown then now. And I
Yeah.
said, I'm going to leave. I got to leave here. I said, this is my playground and I can't stay here. I've got to go where I don't know anybody.
Yes.
So I left here. I left Abilene. I moved to my town where I was born. Actually, Bryan, College Station. I moved there, and I'll never forget. I was sitting on my aunt's porch, and I could hear some. I had moved with a cousin of mine, and it was some things going on at his house, and I didn't want to get involved. To make a law, I did one time. I did get involved with it, and I knew I was like, this is not it. I'm not supposed to be here either. I'm right here in the midst of all the drugs. I was sitting on my aunt's porch and I heard a choir singing. Now, let me kind of back up. I've always, no matter what I was doing in the world, no matter what I was doing, what was going on in my life, I was still faithful to the work of the church. I was
Amen.
faithful to the work. I was faithful to God. No matter what, I stayed in church. I kept my relationship with Christ. I prayed through it all. I prayed through it
Amen.
all. And
Beautiful.
I was sitting on the porch, and I'm a choir director. I work with children. I've always done that, youth director. I was sitting on the porch and I heard this choir singing. I didn't know my way around there. I followed that sound. I
Yes.
followed that sound, and
Yes.
it had to be about 3 blocks away. It was a park. I followed that sound till I got to that park, and I sit there and I was listening to the God. They was having praise and worship, and I was getting all into it. And the lady came up to me. She said, "Baby," she said, "I don't know you." She said, "Baby, I want to tell you, this is not your destination.
Ooh.
This is not your healing place." This
Ooh.
lady didn't know me from Adam. She said, "This is not your healing place."
Mm.
And that day, I called my friend in Georgia. I said, "I need to come to Georgia." And I felt like I needed to go where there was nobody. I knew nobody, no
Right.
family,
No
no
connections
family.
whatsoever. Yeah.
My daughter, she was there in Brown with me. She was in she was living in her own spot with her friend or cousin. And so she said, "Mom, I'm going to stay here." She was doing well. So she said, "I'm going to stay here." I said, "Well, I got to go. I got to go." And so I went to Georgia. Georgia is where my healing began.
Amen.
Georgia is where I got my healing. Once it was really weird because I was there for like 7 months, and I was like, wow, I haven't done anything. And I realized
See?
that the time kept going by more and more and more. And I have to say, and I try to say things because I try to respect my husband. I'm married, the
Of
things I
course.
say.
Of course.
At that time, I had met him in 2010. Some things transpired. We were separated again. I went to Georgia. This is my new husband. I went to Georgia. Um, I was there with my friends, and I met a guy, a guy friend, who basically helped me through my struggle. I mean, through seeing life in a different manner,
Right.
different
Right.
way. I just have to say that it was a wealthy person, and I was around a lot of neat people, and it was really it was a lot of healing for me. So I began to have counseling there. Um,
Good.
I got my counseling there, and I got stronger and stronger and stronger. And before I knew it, 3 years had passed. I was in Georgia for 3 years, and life was good. Life was good. Um, then my husband came, but no, he was my boyfriend at the time, came back to Abilene. I came back here to Abilene. We ended up getting back together, and I married him.
Oh.
And so at the time I married him, it was 2016. I had been clean for 2.5 years when I married him.
So
Um,
you've been clean since 2014, technically.
2014,
Wow, that is
2014,
incredible. Yay.
2014.
How does that
Yeah.
feel? I mean, you went through a
It
whole lot of
it
stuff.
really feels great.
I
It feels
see
great.
it all
It
over
feels
you. I
great.
see it.
And I, to this day, I protect my sanity. I
Of course.
protect my peace.
I
I do. It is
understand
very
that, sweetie.
important for me. I
Yes.
never, even in the beginning of me getting clean, I never desired to use ever again. I never craved it. Some people crave it when they're getting clean. Not once. Because I prayed and I asked God. I said, "God, heal me." I did. I got on my knees and I prayed and I asked God when I got to Georgia, "Lord, please heal me. heal me from this disease of addiction. And he did. He healed me.
He did.
And so, I began to get really involved in the church there in Georgia. I had a great support group there, my friends, my church family there. I got involved there, and I came back here, and I stayed involved with the church. Also, I began to sponsor other ladies. That
Nice.
I sponsor other ladies.
Yes.
I'm now not sponsoring anyone, but my last three that I had, one went back out, one passed away, and then the
Wow.
other one, she just didn't listen. She's still clean, but she don't listen. And if you don't listen, I'm not going to spend my time with you, because if you're not going to listen to what I'm trying to tell you to keep you from going back out there, that means you're not really mentally ready. You're not mentally ready, and it's just a matter of time that
But
you'll
I
be
mean,
back.
how can they be mentally if they're on drugs? They're not themselves anyway.
Well, yeah, right, right. But these are girls that have cleaned themselves up.
Oh, so they're
This is a
clean at this
recovery
point.
house that I've been helping ladies. They're
So they're
actually
recovered
recovered.
and they're not listening.
Right, right, and
Yeah.
and
You're
it's
not going to
very
help everybody. You're
right,
not going to help
right. And
everybody.
I try to tell them it's very important when you have a sponsor, somebody sponsoring you, somebody that has went through what you've went through.
Yes. Yes.
They're not going to lead you wrong, because they want to see you clean too. They want to see you do better. They want to see you be the woman that God made you to be.
So have you considered doing a nonprofit to bring these women to you and have monies to
This
be
is,
able to?
it's so amazing that since coronavirus, this is something that's special. Um, it was one morning and this is lately, during the coronavirus time that we had corona. I was
Mhm.
like, Lord, I know I have more purpose. I have something else
Yes.
that I need to do. And I've always wanted to be more involved in the recovery world. I really do. The same day that I was thinking that, I was like, okay, I got to get more involved in that recovery world. My husband got received a phone call from somebody in another state who wants to bring a house here, a recovery house here, and wanting us to run it. And I was like,
Listen,
wow.
Angela, listen. The reason I asked that question is because that's what I was hearing.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because through your pain, you found your purpose.
Right,
You
right,
know what I'm saying? We're
exactly.
so busy trying to get out of pain. But
Right,
if you really want God to, if you really want to hear from God, your answer is in it.
right, exactly.
It's in
It's in
it.
your
And you
purpose.
couldn't feel it because you were numbing yourself. And the
Hmm.
moment you say, God, help me. Because you
Hmm.
know what? The whole time you've been talking, I've been thinking about the red cardinal,
Hmm.
wondering if he
Hmm.
ever came back.
Hmm.
Because that red cardinal signified that your husband was there was peace, and you
Right.
never talked about that red cardinal again. So it's almost like, yeah, go ahead.
Right, right, right. There was a time, I guess, in Georgia. Georgia, it's been the last time that I've seen a red cardinal.
Oh, so you did see it
I
again.
did see it,
Oh,
and
beautiful.
it was probably 2 months. No, 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 no. Probably the seventh or eighth month of my recovery is when I seen that, and I
Gee.
knew that everything was going to be okay. I have not seen it again. I have not seen it again. I don't know if my children see it, if they go through things and see it, but I have not seen that red cardinal again.
Do you think you've healed now from his death?
I know I have. I've healed.
Okay.
I've healed from his death. I
And you
was
accept
finally
his
able to.
death?
Yes, I was.
Wow.
I was able
Now
to.
he can rest.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
he was worried about
Right.
you. That's why he sent you away that day.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how are the
And
kids doing? I noticed they've been
the
on
kids are
here.
doing really, really good.
Yeah, they're very supportive.
I have 12, 13, 12 grandchildren and one on the
Oh,
way. And so
nice.
the amazing thing about that is that my husband that I have now, most of my grandchildren would never know their papa. The only papa that they know is the husband that I have. And
Oh,
they love their papa. They love him, and he loved them just as they are his own children. I met him. Now let me bring him in. I met him when my children was probably 14 and 15. So when I met my now husband, we started dating. They were 14 and 15. But since they've had children. He even accepted my children as his own. He treat them with respect. They treat him with respect. He is a great grandfather. He
Oh,
the babies. That's all. He's the only grandfather that they will know, and it's such a blessing because he never had children. He never had
oh.
children. So
So looks like he got what he wanted, and you did
yes,
too. I
yes,
love
God
it.
gave him what he
Oh,
wanted, and me also.
girl.
So
Oh
I'm
my
telling you,
gosh.
he, as a matter of fact, I'm sitting here looking at a toy now that he went and bought one of his grandsons for his
So,
birthday. He got.
so Angela, I want you to look into the camera and I want you to talk to that young woman because right now,
Mhm.
somewhere in America, because of COVID and because of this quarantining and the world that just has changed, there's
Right.
some woman out there right now who's right where you were,
Hmm.
wanting to
Hmm.
die,
Hmm.
wanting to give it all up,
Hmm.
wants the numbness to end, will do
Right.
anything to not hurt,
Right.
to save her life or his life. I
Hmm.
need you to look into the camera and speak to them and let
Okay.
God use you.
Okay. Um, if you are going through, I don't know if I'm looking straight in the camera or not.
You are.
Okay. If you are going through uh, an addiction, or you are a widow and you feel like you want to give up on life, God did not bring. I had to remind myself that God did not put me here to give up.
Yes.
God has a purpose for everyone. There is a way of escape. There is more to life than using. There is a way out. I used to feel like I would be that person that I would never be. I would never get out of that world. I thought I would always be a broken, abused woman who turned to drugs and alcohol to solve my problems. That is not where it's at. There you can find your way of escape. You have to seek God, number one. You have to give your life to God. Without giving your life to God, you giving your life to God, you have more of a chance to survive than not giving it to him. God will give you, he gives us a way of escape out of anything. You can make it through. You don't have to turn to that alcohol or that dope. You don't have to turn to that. The only thing that you will ever get from that is jail, destruction, or death. There's no other way out. There's no other way out. And if there's a woman that's being beaten and abused and you feel like that you're gonna that there's no way out, that's all you know, that's not all you have to know. There's a way of escape. Find you a shelter. Do what you have to do to save your mind, to save you, especially if you have children. Your children depend on you. Your children, are,
Yes.
whether they're babies or an adult, your children are watching everything that you do and they're dependent on you to get yourself better. To get yourself better. There is a way of escape. Find somebody. Now, once you come out of it, if you are in an active addiction, you have to get away from your old playground. If it means leaving, a lot of people say relocation don't get it. You're right. Relocation won't get it. You have to you have to get it in your mind that this is it. It has to be a mental thing as well. You have to say, I don't want anymore. I don't want to live this way. You have to get to that point. If you don't feel like you are at that point, keep trying. Keep trying.
Keep trying.
Never give up.
Never.
Never give up. That's the main thing. Never give up. There is a way of escape. Find you a support group. Find you a place to where there's no activity going on. You can't be around your old friends. That you can't do. Uh, you have to turn to God.
Right.
My
Amen.
main thing was turning to God. I
Turn it
didn't
to
know
God.
anything else. I had to give it to God.
Because those were your roots. Those
Yeah,
were your roots.
my roots.
Absolutely.
When I
Yeah.
totally surrendered to Him, things began to happen. Things began to
Things begin
change.
to change.
But until I
And
surrendered to Him, nothing changed.
I like that she ends with that because you know what? Like we started the broadcast. If you change nothing,
Right.
if you change nothing, I need you to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
If you change nothing, nothing will
Will
change.
change.
So
That's
don't
exactly
keep saying you want to change if you're not willing to change
right.
something. right?
right. That's right.
So I'm
That's right.
glad you got out, Angela. You are a success story. My cousin
Yes.
didn't. My
Hmm.
cousin was killed
Hmm.
with a belt around her neck to
Right.
the point to where her brain swollen and she died like 2 days later. So
Right.
these shows are to make sure
Mhm.
that no one has to live through that or die. You
Right.
know, Angela's case, let me tell you, I know for a fact God was with you.
Right. He
I
was.
know for a fact because
He
you
was.
took some excruciating beatings.
Hmm.
You never fought back. And you know
Right.
what I love about you, Angela, sitting here? I see a woman who didn't allow, I do this motivational message sometimes, and it's about the egg, the carrot, and the coffee bean.
Hmm.
And and I'm gonna share that with you guys because it's a brief thing, and I want to leave you guys with this tonight. But we're gonna talk about COVID a little bit, how you dealt with that. But I want you guys to imagine in front of me three boiling hot water, I mean 3 pots of boiling hot water. And each one of these items, the egg, the coffee bean, and the carrot, they're going to go into that boiling water. The boiling water represents the pressures of life. Each of us deal with it differently.
Right.
So the egg goes in, the coffee bean goes in, and the carrot goes in. The egg goes in and it's all mushy on the inside, but the pressures of life cause it to harden,
Hmm.
right? The
Right.
egg hardens. And if it's in there too long, it cracks.
Right.
That's what happened to Angela during her
Hmm.
abusive stages. She stayed in that pressure too long till she cracked. The carrot goes in hard, consistent, strong, but the pressures of life makes it soft. But
Wow.
you, my dear, ended
Hmm.
up like the coffee bean because when you were in the pressures of life, you were put in that boiling hot water. Some of us don't allow the water to change us. We
Right.
change the water.
Hmm.
And
Wow.
that's what a coffee bean does. And that's what you did.
Wow.
You have
Thank
changed lives because
you.
you were willing to be in that water.
Hmm. Right.
And I
Wow.
am proud
That's
of you. And
amazing.
I'm so
Thank you.
glad that you
Thank
came
you.
on this broadcast to share that every time people come on here, it seems like they just get stronger and stronger
Right.
because
Yeah.
now you're not afraid of anything.
Right. It's
You
exactly
know
right.
he didn't win.
Right.
It's like, haha, devil, you didn't win.
That's
You
right. That's
tried
right.
though.
Yeah.
Weapons form against us, but they don't
They
prosper. It
don't
doesn't mean they're not
prosper.
going to come. It's
That's
not doesn't
right.
mean they're
That's
not
right.
going to form. But you
That's right.
made it out. So let's talk a little bit about COVID. How did you catch? Because I had COVID too. How did you? Do you know
Oh
how you
wow.
caught it?
I don't know how. Well, I got it from my husband. I don't know how he caught it. He comes in contact with a lot of people, with the
Oh
work he
wow.
does, and so I don't know how he got it. But and I said I was gonna let him tell his testimony, but I got to tell his testimony too.
Well, we'll just
Um,
bring it back. That's all. You can tell it, but
yeah,
you can come back in.
he had contacted COVID, and then of course he called me that day, and whenever he found out that he did have it and told me I had it, I was at work, and I immediately left work and went to go get tested, and I too had it. It's not a good thing. It's not a fun thing. We both struggled through it. I didn't have it as bad as he did. My husband was getting really dehydrated. He had got to the
Ooh.
point that there was 2 days. It was 2 days that he was laying in the bed, and he would get up to use the restroom or to drink some water. And I remember going in there telling him, Billy, you have to get up. You got to get up. You can't let this stuff settle in your lungs because it'll
Exactly.
give you pneumonia. You have to get up.
Yes.
And when he raised up to talk to me, um, first when I seen him laying there, I could see he had like a grayish uh,
Tone. Yeah.
tone to him.
Yeah.
And I called my sisters after that, but he had a grayish tone to him. I said, Billy, you have to get up. I'm calling 911. You need to go be seen. You have to get up. And he was trying to talk to me. He was so dehydrated that his tongue was sticking to the top of his mouth.
Oh wow.
And his tongue was sticking to the top of his mouth. And so I called 911. They came and got him. And of course, with me having COVID, I couldn't go with him. And with the numbers being so high, they're not allowing anybody to go anyway.
Exactly.
And so I had a moment. I had a moment of thinking when the ambulance drove off with him. I said, because I've seen him drive off with my deceased husband.
Yeah.
I got into my mind started playing tricks on me.
Of course.
I'm saying, he's not going to come home. This is it. He was too sick. To me, he looked like he was laying there looking like Steve was in the hospital. He
Jesus.
really was. He had lost a lot of weight, and he was just laying there. And I thought, oh my God. So when he left, my mind started playing tricks on me. I started crying. Started weeping, and I called my sisters. One of my sisters in Oklahoma, she began to witnessed to me, talked to me about God. I called my sister Betty. They basically began to telling me, this, no, 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 you can't do this. You got to
Mm-mm.
speak life into this situation,
Speak
Angela.
life.
You know who God
Amen.
is. You know what
Yes.
God can do. You know what He's
Yes.
brought you through. This is not the end. This is the beginning. That's what my sister said. This is not the end. This is the beginning. So I turned my music on, my gospel music. I turned it on as loud as I could. And I'm telling you, girl, I started worshiping God in here. I started praising God. I started praying. I said, devil, you got to get out of here. You got to get out of my husband. And then I would call the hospital. They wouldn't give me any information. And so I was worried about him. But once I started praising and thanking God, I started thanking God for the victory that was to come. I knew
Amen.
my husband was coming home. But for a couple of hours, I had a little
Of course. I
setback.
mean, because
A
we're
setback.
human. We do get fleshy
Right.
sometimes. There's nothing wrong with that.
And so,
But you
but
went back to where you needed to
right,
be, though.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. And so about 6 hours later, he called me to come pick him up. And if
Oh,
I tell you, I have never, and I know this is nothing but the favor of God. Me and my husband both tested negative less than 14 days. My husband tested negative less than 11 days. He tested negative and went back to work. And I'm telling you, he's been running ever since.
bless
No,
his
I
heart.
mean,
Bless his heart.
he's been doing amazing. I've been doing as well also. Um,
Well, I got it on July 10th. That was the first time. I waited the 14, 15 days and I tested positive again.
oh, wow.
Yeah,
Hmm.
so I am still home quarantining and doing what I need to do. So I took another one 2 days ago. Those
Hmm.
results will be in tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, because
We are
it's
praying for
72
the
hours.
best.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes. But you know what? I told God I trust you no matter what.
that's right.
No matter
Yeah,
what.
that's
No
right.
matter what.
That's right.
Because you know what? He says, when you delight yourself in the things that concern me, I'll give you the
Yes,
desires of your heart.
that's
Well,
what he
I
said.
desire to not have COVID.
That's what he's. Yeah, that's right.
Right?
That's
So
right.
we're
That's
out
right.
here helping people with your stories and all the
Right.
people that were here last week. But we are definitely going to end our
Hmm.
broadcast. It's
Yes.
been a wonderful night,
Thank you.
Angela. I mean,
Thank
because
you.
you were very transparent,
Hmm.
because I could tell, I can see the passion you have for people.
Hmm.
And I
I
see why
do.
you attract people to you. You
Yeah.
are the kind of people the enemy is going to be after, because he
Right.
doesn't want that to come into this world. There's so
Hmm.
many hurting people, and you have just the voice of healing.
Hmm.
Just your voice can heal people. You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? That's pretty
Right.
powerful. I
Praise
mean, you
God.
used your story tonight and your voice, but you're going to reach thousands of people. And I
Hmm.
really truly see that nonprofit, because that's what I was hearing when I was
Right.
talking.
Right.
Nonprofit,
I
nonprofit.
believe that.
Yes.
I
All
receive
right.
that. I receive that.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Have anything you'd like to say to your, I mean, you have your family here and
Are
there are
they
people
watching?
that were there for you. This is the
I,
time to definitely thank them.
I must say this, and because I want to say it publicly. I am so grateful for, and I'm gonna say one name. I have to say this name because my mom was a praying woman. My mother prayed me. It was her prayers that brought me through this. There is a deacon and a minister here in Abilene, Texas, and I'm gonna call his name. His name is Deacon Gillespie. He goes to a church by the name of King Solomon Baptist Church. I'm going to tell you, every time that man would see me, even in my using days, he would tell me, Angela, he see me in church, 3 o'clock services, I am praying for you. He would go see
Yes.
my mom and talk to my mom about me. And he would, talk to him and my mom would pray for me. But this man, every time I seen him, he would never turn a bad eye to me. He would just
Amen.
let me know, I am
Yes.
praying for you.
Yes.
And him as well as Reverend Richards, another one of my mom's friends. They would, talk to my mother about me, and she would let him know what's going on with me. And a lot of his prayers, he prayed for me. He would always tell me, "Sister, I'm praying for you." So I appreciate those two men really, a lot. My sisters, my family, my mom, my dad, they all kept me lifted up in prayer. And if it wasn't for their prayers and the things that they did, I wouldn't be here today. I know I wouldn't be here today. It was my family was a great support. Even
Amen.
when I couldn't see the truth, I didn't want to see the truth. They were still there. They did things for me for me to get better. I didn't see it then, but of
Of
course,
course.
once I got clean, I seen that everything they did was for my good.
Amen. I want to bring up some of the comments here. Tiana, I like this comment that she said. She said, Daddy stayed with you until he knew you were going to be okay.
Yeah.
Out of the
I
mouth of
believe that.
babes. Thank you so much for that,
Right.
Tiana.
Yeah.
And she also gave another one here. That's our mama. You go, girl. Proud of you. And then I see Sheila here. She made a comment to you. She's thankful you made it out alive. Pray that he's locked up for life.
Mhm.
And may God continue to bless you. Good luck to you in your realtor career. So
Amen.
people were definitely rooting with you tonight, girlfriend. I know
Yeah.
I was. I'm very proud of you. I'm so glad that you agreed to come on the Ella Johnson show and share your story.
You're welcome.
Because you'll help so many. And I want you guys to share this broadcast.
Mhm.
Share it till you can't share it anymore. And
Yeah.
whenever you want the original of this, Angela, just hit me up. I
Okay.
save all of these on my
I
computer.
will.
So
I sure
even
will.
though it's on Facebook, if you need it for
Right.
something else, we can always pull it and
Right.
edit out the parts where we were like, can you hear me?
Right.
No,
Right.
what's going
Okay.
on? You know, we're not
Okay.
worried about that because
Right.
devil,
That's
you
right.
still didn't stop it, right?
That's right.
But
That's
I
right.
love you,
That's
dear.
right.
Thank you
I
so
love
much
you too, Ella.
again.
Thank you.
You bet. Absolutely. Well, guys, that's another show. We'll be back tomorrow night. Because last night we had a little technical difficulty with George's show. So I told him that I would come back tomorrow night and we'll have part 2. And y'all know how crazy that show went. So we'll be back tomorrow night on a Friday night. This is special because I'm usually just Wednesday and Thursday. But we'll be back tomorrow night, same time, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Ella Johnson Show. You guys all have a good evening, and I'll see you next time. Thanks again, Angela.
Bye-bye. You're welcome.
Thanks for tuning in to the Ella Johnson Show.